We're back here at Deadlock Fight Night, and now taking on North America, number 18. ZP and Jake here to bring you through some North America action. And Jake, it's kind of a special setup here today as far as it goes. No BO3, just a BO5 because spring break took out most of North America.
Yeah, we got a special treat on the cards. I think this is going to be a particularly exciting best of 5. We don't get many, of course, in Deadlock Fight Night. So it's going to be particularly interesting, I think, to see drafting and strategy develop throughout the series. See if any team is able to get an early emotional advantage in terms of if anyone gets an early stomp. I feel like that always plays into the perspectives they have coming into map 3, map 4, map 5.
I think you touched on a key point. It's not just one battle, it is a war when you get into a best of 5 in a game like Deadlock. But if you're just tuning in wondering what the format is, we got you covered. This is how we run things here on the show. Normally it would be a best of 1 challengers match into the best of 3 money match. Usually, you know, we show along a bracket to go there, but in this case, oh, there we go. We have a bracket this time. You know, this time it really highlights the difference here, Jake. You know, we got the normal setup in EU. Go to NA, just B&B versus Hydronation all night long. And I mean, this will be interesting. You have to go back to the very first Deadlock Fight Night to get a BO5 when we anointed our original champions. But, you know, here, B&B already came in as a champion, but still going to play the BO5.
Yeah, and Big and Brolic, they've been on a bit of a run. They've been looking solid, but they're up against the reformed Hydronation, who has been reformed kind of a lot in the last few weeks, time and time again. So looks like we've got another re-up for them in terms of the new roster. So I'm curious to see who they field and how they do in today's match.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about this is that Hydronation themselves will make fun of it at this point. Like, they know you can't change rosters as much as Hydronation has and not have a self-awareness. But it's kind of a blast from the past where they had Quig on the roster. Like, Quig came back, then Quig quit again, and now they've brought back in Flick, which of course was part of the early Hydronation era before they did some change-ups there. So Flick back into the roster, and by all counts, the Scrimbuck Express saying it's been doing pretty well. Meanwhile, Jake, B&B, you know, a little bit more stable by comparison to the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with a winning formula, I don't think there's any reason for them to, you know, make changes at this point. I think it's going to be exciting for a lot of people to see Leffa back in the lineup for Hydronation, though. Like, in terms of individual skill, I think a lot of people would put him right at the top of North America. He's certainly in that echelon. And so I think from a carry perspective is definitely someone to have eyes on here. I'm curious to see how Leffa does now in the full duo lane meta. I think of him as like a real inveterate solo lane player. But, you know, let's see what he can do with those Sinner Sacrifice buffs, getting to like these ultra crazy late games. Leffa's always been a treat to watch, and so I'm excited to see what he can bring this week in the best of 5.
Also, before the stream catches up, I said Flick. I meant to say Rocker. I have no idea why. I've probably been up a little bit too long. It's been a very long day for me before broadcast, but it's Rocker who's back into the fray, where Rocker quit, had basically paid someone $3,000 to join the team in his absence, someone that couldn't end up joining in the end, but he's made his way back to Deadlock, is what it comes down to. But also, Dan has made his way back into Deadlock here as the analyst. I don't know why we were saying it like that, but we made it sound like really just, you know, the specialist. He who analyzes, Dan. That is you. You are he.
I was sold when you said Flick, because basically it's like, I mean, there's been times when the roster essentially, I mean, if we made the graphic and went live, the rosters can still change. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, you know, chat on one hand, when they first started, be like, what do you mean Flick left? And then they'll be like, but wait, did Flick leave? Like, it's Hydronation. He could have left. Like, Quig joined the team and left it like 3 times in the span of like 1 week. I mean, who knows? But no, Rocker was the much bigger blast from the past. But yeah, my name mixing aside, getting into it, we have a history here on Deadlock Fight Night where we're just going to bring up where things have been at. And yeah, you know, you see Hydronation, long period of excellence if you were to scroll that up to the beginning, but a little bit more turbulent in recent times.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, like, they basically won everything before Fight Night number 10. I mean, they like the run of dominance goes so far back into the past. But I think they have brought together a lot of the players who were part of that majorly successful run for Hydronation. And so I think we could be seeing them, you know, in a bit of a resurgence. We know these individual players are incredibly good. Maybe they struggled to find their footing on previous rosters. And I think Big and Brolic can put up a real test for them. But I I've just always been super impressed by Leffa. I mean, the individual performances are not necessarily the most important factor in a team game such as Deadlock, but I still think they can really, turn the tides if it's a close series.
Yeah, it's always really hard to predict. You can't doubt the quality of the players, like Jake says. I'm definitely on a B&B high for sure. I love the fact that Ido has a great team around him, and I mean the interviews also deliver. So I feel like if you're not rooting for the interviews, the post-match interviews, I mean, what are you even doing?
I mean, I don't really. Okay, so his first interview, he comes in and he is just absolutely off the chain. Broke his F-bomb quota in the first 2 sentences. And then he comes back on with a choir boy act. It was literally an entire act for the entire interview. And then he drops the act at the very end with another F-bomb. I've enjoyed the interviews, if nothing else. A little bit of showmanship going into it. But speaking of going into things here, we have the draft ready to go. And we'll see now just what will be variable with EU or even just the last week in North America. Jake, this will be interesting, especially with some of the changes here. I'm curious to see NA's take on Holiday right now, especially with Listic in the last interview being like, yeah, she's, a word. Well, I'm not going to repeat.
Yeah, I think Holiday's it was already maybe a little bit of a lower prio in NA compared to EU, so I imagine this only intensifies that. I am curious to see if there's any, respect for the stuff like the Viscous or the Pocket that Big and Brolic have made look really strong, but it's more of their specific comfort. I'm also curious to see for the Hydronation players coming back in, what do they end up playing? We've seen somebody like Leffa on the Yamato many times in the past, could come out here in this draft.
There we go. First band coming up from Hydronation. We'll see what exactly they fear. Is it going to be the Sinclair? I mean, the Sinclair, I feel like, has been built up to be maybe more of a threat than expected. Instead, the Grey Talon band comes in.
Wow.
I think given how well B&B has been able to play heroes like Grey Talon, this makes sense. Now, the counter question here is, do they first pick the Sinclair? Or have we started now this move away from the era of, oh, you need the first band or first pick Sinclair? Because to me, Dan has been looking at it. I feel like the consequences have not been that severe for letting a Sinclair through, at least in the last week.
Yeah, it feels like it has backfired on teams that over prioritize the the pick of it if it gets left open, and some teams are also losing a ban because they feel like they have to ban it if the other team doesn't ban it. So I feel like we are getting to the point where we're not playing into that game as much. We see that here. Might not even see it get selected potentially for Hydronation. We'll have to wait and see, because the early picks are really important to your core strategy as well, and your core comfort for your roster. So throwing a Sinclair in there just opportunistically, especially if you expect it to get banned, it doesn't necessarily make as much sense to me. So we'll have to see.
Day for mercy.
I mean, B&B have been really sticking by this first pick Viscous. It's worked for them really well, with Gibbs putting on, huge games, having these crazy snowballs. And Hydronation let it through. They're willing to fight it strategically. I think a first ban would be a little extreme for something like a Viscous. And they get a Vindicta of their own. We'll see what's followed up with, maybe some kind of initiator. We've seen Paradox, I think, go up a little bit in value with the reduction in people's desire to pick Holiday.
Yeah, I mean, I think Paradox Mo and Krill gets picked instead. Mo has also been the other hero that's really been rising up the ranks, just because not only is Mo good in terms of the early game, especially once you would get ultimates online, but Mo also kind of acts as kind of a hedge against heroes like Yamato, right? Where B&B could pick Yamato off the rip in the next 2 picks, but it wouldn't quite have the same impact as it would against a team without a Mo and Krill, because Mo and Krill is one of the few heroes in the game that can kind of act as a check and balance. But seeing what B&B comes in here, think about heroes on the board, Paradox would still make sense. And honestly, Dan, they also see the Mo and go, we don't care. We're still picking the motto for our team. And
you have a Viscous too. So even if you do get comboed, I feel like you're willing to push the limit much more on Yamato with the hard save in the pocket. Knowing that, okay, if Mo combos you early, you're just going to get bailed out, or even the Mo could get stunned by the goo ball. So I don't mind getting the Yamato here. I don't think you need to be too scared. I think both teams are drafting their own vision of the game right now, rather than being too worried about the counter picks. And I love the Bebop here on third. I mean, this is a really high tempo set of 3 heroes for Big and Brolic to open with, a lot of snowball potential. And then Yamato could really carry the game and get out of control.
And I also like the Yamato pick, because I feel like if they didn't pick Yamato, they would have had to, I feel like Hydronation are going to want to combine that with the Mo, I think it just will play probably pretty well off of that as also. So it's like nice just like dealing with it, and then you can target your ban at something else. And the response here from Hydronation, okay, they get the Paradox, get their initiation going. It feels like maybe teams might not pick the Holiday because the T3 stun going away is probably like too central to like how people maybe perceive the hero being played. So might not even see that double initiation, like, except unless if we see the Lash stock stay high. But Hydronation never were like super into Lash as much as some of the other NA teams, I think.
Also, I'll say it here. I think Kelvin is either getting banned in this round or getting picked by either of these two teams. Like the Kelvin going this far in NA is ridiculous. Okay, and he does get banned by Hydronation. So yeah, that's one thing going. I don't know where Ivy lands here. I mean, Ivy, it feels like, has actually kind of slowly crept into at times people are neither banning nor picking, as people realize they don't necessarily need a support unless the hero is Kelvin, who is still absolutely ridiculous. Interestingly enough, though, in terms of heroes that are getting valued a little bit less overall, is the Wraith side of things, where I'm not even convinced we're going to see a Wraith here, even though I think Wraith is still good. I do wonder if part of it is just the fact that so much is early game focused right now that teams feel like they would rather just pick things that give them an even more hyper early game edge.
Yeah, wouldn't mind seeing an Abrams here for Hydronation as well for the Vindicta lane. Could be really potent.
Yeah, and then we have like the comp that we have like most of the comp that VP was running all day today. The Paradox, Mokrill, Vindicta, Abrams. It's very strong.
I can see here, and yeah, Abrams comes in. Yeah, it's funny how Abrams just fell into the fourth pick range in a way that Geist often has, right? Where, I mean, as I speak of it too, Geist also could work for B&B here. This is about, Jake, it just feels like Geist has always ended in this range and throughout Deadlock's history. Not as early often first picked, but, the 3-4 pick range often.
Yeah, I think Geist is a good shot with Calico banned. Mirage as well out. I wonder if people are still valuing Warden much at all. I do think Warden is something to think about. It is going to be a Lash. With Kelvin out, I like this. I think, this looks pretty solid in terms of the counter initiation. I think late game, there could be some problems like a Phantom Strike Abrams canceling your ulti or, getting shut down that way. But I still think, it's really interesting to see these two very different drafts that I actually kind of like them both. I feel like there isn't much of a draft advantage, at least that I see so far. I feel like both teams have a lot of roads to victory. Big and Brolic definitely heavier on the playmaking, and they're going to get a Sinclair deep into the draft. At this kind of a pick, I feel like you've got to just start valuing it with something like you could copy the Vindicta, you could copy the Abrams and feel really good about it. Heck, even the Mokrill combo is not so bad.
Yeah, I'm liking this from B&B a lot. They also said like last week as well that they have a really good interpretation of like how to play around their strengths of their hero pool, and it was definitely a very different look. I remember we were kind of like surprised they were running double supports and doing all kinds of what appeared to be strange business, but they put the method to the madness in a way that was really convincing. So we get the Geist coming through for Hydronation. What do we feel? What do we feel is like is really missing from this lineup right now? Because it's pretty well rounded.
They could probably use a little bit more damage. Like, if they were to end it with a Wraith, it would be good. Though you've been seeing more in Furnace. 7 also is still available. Like, you could get a last pick 7 right now, which would also... I think the 7 is probably the most likely. And maybe it's also part of why we've seen less Wraith, is that you've seen 7 raise up in value. And as a result, okay, yeah, they do in fact go for the 7. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, just based on what we've seen in EU2. And again, it's probably part of the reason why we've seen Wraith a bit less, Jake, because you think about itemization, if you are trying to eat the jungle as Wraith, it does kind of pigeonhole you into going Tesla bullets a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think the 7 valuable here, although I will say the ulti is probably going to be a little bit difficult to get too much out of with, Bebop and Lash, and even sometimes Viscous, being able to pull you out of that and punish you potentially for popping the ulti. But I think 7, for the farm snowball, the acceleration. Big and Brolic are going to finish with the Holiday. I think this is kind of just the last option really left for the 12th pick of the draft. But I don't think they're loving it. It's fine. It could work. There's really heavy on the playmaking, as has been Big and Brolic's way. I think it'll be curious. It'll be interesting to see, like, maybe ultra late, there's some problems for Big and Brolic, but they've been a team that has made these like less conventional core type drafts really look good and like still survive and thrive even in the late game with characters like, Bebop and Sinclair potentially still hitting like a pretty solid late game scaling potential.
It's interesting too because I feel like Wraith could have slotted in kind of nice as a longer range damage dealer for B&B potentially. But the Holiday is interesting because, yeah, as you say, like even more playmaking. They've got the hook already. They've got like Lash. You can initiate super well. There's lots of ways to like initiate with this lineup, but like you had Holiday on top of it. So that for me is like, okay, they've got to get really aggressive, and we need to see that early game roaming Bebop. That would be really fun to see. I'm very curious how the lanes are gonna shape up.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the way Deadlock is being played right now is that teams really value winning the early game. I mean, the changes that happen to the jungle mean that you get less value out of just, trying to use the jungle to recover. You really need to try and win at least 2 out of 3 lanes. And if you are going to lose the lanes, you can't have a lane that just gets absolutely demolished, right? So when you look at the heroes that are getting valued right now, it's definitely more trend towards what is good, in that key first 15 minutes of the game. And the heroes that usually ramped up like really late game, they've taken a hit in priority, Jake.
Yeah, I think you can get away with a couple in your draft, but you've got to have some kind of build that gets you active on the map. I think like pure farming early is just not viable. Even somebody like Seven still needs to show up and still needs to like take engagements and be relevant. Within that early window, you get those first few buff runes coming up. Like you've really got to be able to participate in those engagements and secure your team, those early guardians as well. For Big and Brawlic though, I will say like they've got a potential for Yamato Bebop in the mid lane, which for me is one of the best lanes in Deadlock right now. Especially in the mid lane, with Yamato being able to play the ultimate height and being like super annoying from up there. And then of course the Bebop hook threat at all times. Could be a super strong mid lane, could give them an early advantage and get the lane a little bit out of control. Sinclair also, I think, a pretty strong laner, even with like the minor nerfs that he got recently. So I think for Hydronation, the question is going to be mostly the laning phase. Can they get to the point where Abrams, Mokrill, and Geist can like really start to get active and really start to get out of control? I think Big and Brawlic would love to snowball this game into their ultis and tempo down some early guardians.
One thing we got to address here real quick to the audience, so you know the delay. Normally we would be in game, but the bladder control for Hydronation has never been at a lower level, because I am reading directly from Hydration with a little bit of censorship, but it's one after the other here. Quote, never mind 1 bathroom, then right after 2 bathroom, then right after 3 bathroom. Half of Hydronation went to the can right before the game start. It's unbelievable how it's only NA, Dan, that continues to have bathroom-related difficulties week after week.
I mean, it's not a show of confidence if they think the game's going to go that long, that they can't hold it,
You just win in 10, guys. Win in 10. You'll be in the bathroom. No sweat, no trouble. I mean, I do also think like this Lash could have a pretty sick game. Like, there's very little to stop Lash from getting a massive ulti. There's kind of nothing, I guess, the Paradox swap potential to make that ulti awkward. But I think having already had Bebop grabbed in the draft, Kelvin banned out, means Lash could have some like game-winning plays. I think definitely someone to watch in those mid-late game team fights.
Yeah, I mean, part of it too is that you think about who's playing the Lash too. It's more of a specialist, and that's going to be fish cake on it for sure. And you kind of get the buff there, Jake, where if you are kind of a notorious one trick for a hero, in terms of playing it, you kind of get that buff, right? Where it's different than the person that's more versatile. They get to play in their comfort zone. And I mean, there's a world where BNB, that they've done in the past, in the Lash pick in this game in particular, they just get more out of it. But Dan, any final thoughts as the lane phase takes a little bit of shape here?
I think that BNB, one of the biggest win cons for them is they have to be super active, and they have to find success in the roam, especially with all of the initiation that they have. That's the edge that they need to leverage in this game. If Hydronation are able to come out of the early game like even, and it's the mid game go even, I think that spells problems for BNB.
Well, Jake, the lanes are in action. I'm just curious, do we have Yamato Cannon Yamato in middle, just orbital bombardment? That's why I want to know, even as we look at this Viscous lane on the left.
Yeah, definitely a nice lane pairing, with Viscous having a bit of weakness with the last hitting. Bebop really resolves that, but Viscous is great on the harass and the raw damage. I think other teams may have sent the Bebop into mid, but Yamato Lash can also I think Lash can really also use the ultimate height, right? Like slamming off that big high ground for massive early damage. First, couple exchanges, first few waves, I don't think will tell us too much unless teams actually get kills. But for the most part, it's going to be a farm trade until, either team gets like most of their skills online and start to put the pressure.
Interestingly enough, in terms of who's playing what, it's not actually Ido on the Amato. It's poppers. Ido instead just can't be removed from the movement hero that is Holiday. Just too addicted to the movement, Jake.
He also, Hydronation, like, really don't have any support, I would say. Like, it's not even just like a question of like an unconventional support. It's like, I think more and more we're seeing in Deadlock, some of these teams are just not conceptually valuing a support really nearly to what they might have in the past. And then just, you know, thinking like especially with these new duo lanes, maybe you can just scale and just like win early game, and there's enough jungle to farm. If you farm the enemy's jungle, if you're playing for that snowball effect, maybe support other than, let's say, Kelvin, who just adds so much tempo via the healing, maybe not necessary in today's game.
No, and I think oftentimes when you don't have support, it's compensated for with more CC, right? Where you get like oftentimes a support player playing Mo. In this case, it's not a support player playing Mo. It's the weird thing Hydronation has going on where in the post-Quig era, they'll have Calc at times play supporting heroes, but also still play Abrams at the same time. And I think you're right. It does come down to this idea that a support hero is not 100% necessary the way that Deadlock has evolved, but people still do like playing Kelvin, who doesn't get banned.
Yeah, I think Kelvin, I mean, the Frozen Shelter is so unique in terms of utility. Nice little jungle steal here from the Holiday. It's big for Ido. And it's as well with Ido on the Holiday, right? Even for B&B. I don't think Ido really is going to play like a passive support, so I'm curious what he's going to do, typically getting a little bit more farm in the squad. On the Holiday, we usually see Holiday get a little bit more sacrificed and be played more as like this pick-based initiator. But with Ido on the roll, I'm kind of curious if we'll see a bit more of a core Holiday in this game.
So far, things a little bit on the quiet side right now. 12K to 11K, both teams filling each other out. You know, it feels a little sleepy relative to what we got in EU, where EU, you know, we got to 5 minutes and it felt like we had aged about 5 years with some of the levels of interactions in lanes. But I also don't hate this here, Jake, either, given the fact that everyone is well aware what level of advantage you can get off the lane phase. And, you know, there's something to be said for not taking dumb risks, because losing badly is way better than just, or rather way worse than just, you know, going even the way things go. Like, you'd rather at least keep it even.
Yeah, I don't think either of these drafts is like critically focused on early game or more than the other. So I think neither team is going to feel like this tremendous pressure to get the game popped off. So I think this might be one of those ones where we settle in for a little bit more of that mid-game brawl. I do think buffs coming online when the jungle starts to spawn, that's going to start to proc these teams to get a little bit more aggressive. But the fact that there's not been significant Guardian pressure and no real not much activity other than the farm trade across the map speaks to, I think, both of these teams having confidence. That being said, pure content opens up on a rocker with first blood.
Yeah, so the power of just early game Sinclair. And, you know, one thing we didn't really talk about in the preamble that I still think it's worth bringing up here. Well, hold the phone. We got Goo Ball and a completely melted out Calc running through the doorway. Bank shot off the side, still looking for 7. Is fall through going to be there? I think 7 might have gone away. Bebop taking the building path, allowing that. But, you know, Hydronation have had trouble finding their identity, Jake, since the swap to 3 lanes, as far as like apportioning farm.
Yeah, I mean, they're also a very different team than we've seen in the last couple weeks. Cube, just not enough duration, gets absolutely crushed by that A result of Young Calc getting back in and getting the trade right back his way. So keeping the game extremely even for now. Even mid lane, I mean, Hydration in particular got tons and tons of pressure in this lane, but managed to weather the storm, you know, be that annoying presence with Mo with so much sustain, so hard to actually push out of lane successfully with just 1 or 2 healing items.
It's kind of interesting how Hydration's hero pool has evolved, where, you know, oftentimes you see Hydration things like the Warden, and now it's just shifted to a little bit of a Mo specialist. Also a player that started the game as a Lash specialist, so Hydration kind of going all around the world in heroes played. But middle lane, still very, very interesting in how it's evolving right now. Combo still on deck for Hydration, as right now priority is onto the Guardian, forces out the Shadow Transformation early just by being nearby. Hydration gonna have a path out to score and heals a lot. Still has a combo on deck here, Jake, if they chase.
Yeah, I don't think they can really leave under tower, and that's both ultis popped in the mid lane. So Hydronation are going to have a couple minutes here where they have the opportunity to force tempo. Somehow, Vindicta in very deep, but the confidence is warranted. He knows that there's not anything that they can turn around with, has the combo behind him, not even needed in that exchange. So it's a nice trade here. The mid lane for Lefa and Hydration starting to look kind of like a strong suit. for Hydronation, a place that they could build that power off of. Meanwhile, Yams looking to return to this side lane, maybe set something up if Seven is over aggressive. Just off the mark with the hook.
Well, then big hook if it hit, but instead, just a little bit of lane control. Meanwhile, take a look at Yamato. Popper's back in the lane here in the middle, but the pressure in the middle starts to get a little bit overwhelming, especially once Vindicta gets Assassinate online. That 700 HP that Yamato has easily could just turn to nothing. A little bit of poke and an extra Assassinate, but instead, counter poke onto the Vindicta, pushing her a little bit back.
Yeah, trade's coming in. I'd imagine when Yamato gets this ult online, she might go for a dive on something like the Vindicta, but actually connecting to her kind of challenging with Hydration doing such a good job being that frontliner, taking all the aggression. It feels like going on the Mo and Krill is just not really going to work in that lane.
What about going on the Abrams, though, back in their lane, and Calc just able to shrug it off, doesn't really care about the lasso one way or another, and, to the middle lane. Hang on. Hyper Beam coming on out, and a very dead Yamato running away, but the rest of BNB not doing too shabby when you look at the lane, particularly on left lane. Gibbs able to find one.
Yeah, well, Hydronation are kind of winning the mid lane. I think the side lanes are starting to go against them here. BNB, these active playmakers, getting kills across both side lanes, and now it could be both of these side Guardians going down. Seven is returning to the other side. Looks like he is popping an ult just to defend that Guardian. But Trade's going their way in both of the side lanes. Maybe time for Lefa and Hydration to start to get a little bit more active. Vindicta and Mo Krill in their own ways, I think, can both take that early lead and start to bring it to save some of these side lanes if they so desire.
One of the funny things about Mo this early in the game, too, is that I feel like using combo at all can be an interesting decision because the mere threat of getting comboed actually gives you a lot of space that you don't have when your combo is on cooldown. So just kind of interesting how much respect Hydration is given. But Holiday in danger, swapped and down. Just a quick evisceration coming on in. Courtesy
yeah, the nukes are
Leva.
huge. Bebop showed up here, but Abrams there to match. So great awareness from Calc. Coming back to participate. Takes a lot here. Could think about getting aggressive now. Looks like it's going to be Lefa, though, the one who's starting to get this snowball rolling. And we've seen this before, right? Like a strong Vindicta early game, now teleporting across, coming to the side lane. We're going to see potentially a game-turning fight here coming from Hydronation with Lefa coming to the side lane. They want to push this Guardian.
Oh! From downtown, Jake. Just when you think Yamato is out, Poppers just gets clipped. Last little slight of hair there, and Lefa now with a ramp into the mid to late game off that shot. Really strong last 2 minutes for Lefa.
Yeah, it's been looking great for him, and no one has really been able to shut him down. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure soon on Yams to find a hook on this Vindicta, because without it, I don't see how you're really going to be able to stop his reign of terror from the skies. And it can be scary against a player like Lefa, who's so aware, so clean with the movement, and he's just going back and forth across the map on this teleport. I really love this, like taking a dominant mid lane and just going back and forth, showing up constantly on both sides of the map, getting kills for the rest of his squad, and it secured Hydronation a 3K lead.
Lefa's picking up a buff. Could be actually quite big, depending on what it is. Picks up the buff, immediately goes middle. And Lefa's strong enough that Lefa's actually going to be terrifying to anyone from BNB in middle right now. Lefa completing the rotation right now. Assassinate at the ready. Here in the mid lane. And they're looking for the Lash. Lash, meanwhile, wanting no part. Meanwhile, off in the side lane. See Calc going in for a moment now. Backing a little bit out. 3 here for Hydronation in the right lane. Looking for Ido on the Holiday. Stormcloud. I believe just copied and used by Pier, but just shut down by Calc. Off in the corridor.
Yeah, Big and Brolic low on quite a few players here. Now Holiday takes a risk, comes into the small room with the young Calc Abrams, and looks like a poorly calculated risk here with Calc now pushing under the tower. And I think this will be a side Guardian. Bebop showing up, though, could try to turn it around with the Hyper Beam, but Guardian already so low.
I gotta say, Jake, combining with the EU, Abrams players have been eating really, really well today. Just, Calc having a great moment there. Listic just absolutely demolishing in EU. Abrams is back. That's all you got.
Yeah, and what an aggressive Abrams build. Like, so much sustain, so much tankability here in this early mid game. He's really going to be able to lead the charge for the rest of the squad of Hydronation. And with somebody like Lefa dealing damage from the sky, Rokane starting to get really farmed on this 7. I mean, This is looking pretty good for Hydronation. Still early, but almost a 10k soul lead when you're only at 11 minutes is pretty significant. BNB in a little bit of trouble here.
Also, the allocation onto Leffa. Leffa has been feeding themselves with these souls, and as I say that, it's another one off in the left lane. And you know, you mentioned it, and it's very true, is that it's just teleporter central, where okay, the map is bigger, Vindicta doesn't have as much mobility. You don't need mobility to cover 2 lanes constantly if you just use the teleporter back and forth over and over again, is what Leffa's been doing to get as much possible action with these assassinates.
Yeah, it's really huge. You know, not being a great jungler on Vindicta, I think this is exactly way to snowball an early lead. And also, as well, almost has that second max on the snipe. And we know, like, the snowballing explosivity possible once Vindicta gets that extra 500 souls per kill. Calc maybe overextends, feeling his survivability a little bit too much, but elsewhere on the map, it's Vindicta profiting from that presence.
Leffa needs to die. Well, I cannot say that any more plainly.
I'm not sure he's gonna die this game, ZP. I think he may actually have like a 20 kill streak when they win.
No, he's just running around, just enforcing his will. It's assassinate after assassinate. Jake, when does it stop?
We gotta pray at this point for like a bebop or lash. Like, we need a movement control on Vindicta. If you can't catch her, there's no way you're dealing damage, especially with those double barriers. I mean, this Vindicta is a huge problem right now for Big and Brolic. And the problem is, I think also they can't pin her down. They can't catch Leffa because they don't know where he's gonna be. He's just kind of dancing on them, making moves with the TPs, and the rest of the team is willing to die sometimes to make space, knowing that this Vindicta snowball is online. 7 as well. You know, going to be a really big threat in the late game. You got to think about the late game team fights. Without a big lash ulti catching people out of position, it's going to be really hard to actually catch these backliners.
Also, in terms of income allocation, we've been talking about the rich in Leffa, so rich that he just bought like the lifetime teleport pass on the teleporter more than not. Look at Poppers right now. I mean, you could just change the name to Poppers with a U, and that'd be pretty accurate for the level of farm that you have as Yamato at 14 minutes of the game. It's not good, Jake.
Yeah, like being broke on Yamato is pretty brutal because this character is all about damage. You don't really have control. You don't really have sustain. I mean, you can tank, but you really need that damage to be relevant. Here we go, though. This is a catch on Vindicta. That's what they need. Started with the Rabbit Hex.
He's so tanky.
Followed by, he just flies away. He's fine. He's out, and now he's going to start pumping the snipe damage. Copied Abrams ult. Okay, they are able to finish off the Vindicta, though. That's pretty massive. So Big and Brolic bringing numbers to this engagement, profiting for now. Young Calca as well looking to go down, so props to Fishcake, finds that setup onto Leffa. That's exactly what he needed to do. The Guardian, though, still very high HP in this lane. Far from a sure take.
Honestly, good fight for BNB. I mean, it was kind of comical for a moment where it looked like Leffa might not even die, but they covered their bases. However, the re-engage comes in. Fishcake already down. Hydronation looking to re-solidify here on the left. They do just that. They catch Ido. And now the 7 played by Rocane gets to walk for it. Also going to be a threat farm-wise. Like, all the right farm is going to the right people on Hydronation here so far, Jake.
Yeah, who's not a threat farm-wise? That's Yamato. So we'll see if he can find a way to get back into the game. Rocane grabbing this inner sack on the enemy side of the map. These little differences really do add up as an urn comes down. And the lanes are all pressured right now from Hydronation. They're doing a fantastic job. Look, Hydration's so ready for this. Insta pick up on urn. It is a difficult turn in, though, into the enemy side of the base. So I'm curious if Hydronation would like to really go for this. They already have some numbers on that side of the map, so it's possible, but it could see this just being a faker and given the difficult turn-in spot.
Yeah, I don't really like them going for the turn spot when your biggest cannon in your reserve right now is the Vindicta. I think going there would be a little bit of a throw. They could just still skirmish on the map. Meanwhile, though, swap in from Flick. Off here on the right. BNB, though, overloading the right-hand side. Moving forward, looking for a kill they could get. 7 right now. Their quarry. Lasso in. It's not gonna be enough to kill Rocane. Rocane gets free, drops a Storm Cloud. Can they burst down Rocane? It's getting awfully spicy here as Rocane completely turns the table on the 7. Still not dead, even as Yamato in. Off the flying strike.
Oh my
Rocane
God.
gets away. He lives. He absolutely lives, Jake.
Way. That was a pretty big slip up by Ido. He had him lassoed and then jumped into the air, but the lasso ended in the skybox. So 7 was just in the perfect position to just rip the ult and actually be a little bit out of range for some of the follow-up damage. Now, though, Leffa thrown under tower by the last, dodging the snipe, stunned by the walker, but the support is there just in time, and oh, he's going to get away with this CP. This game is out of control.
That's the privilege of the rich. Oh, no, he knocked off the zipline. No, he can surely not.
Surely.
Oh, okay.
That was close. I mean, like, honestly, if that wasn't good tracking from Yams to get that finish, that would have been a living Vindicta. Once again, though, BNB trying to double down, trying to turn their fortunes. I like these plays. You got to take risks now with this kind of disadvantage in the game. They lose a walker, but they're trying to make some trades for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're BNB, you have to go for anything possible at this point, because this game is just getting out of hand. And the fact that Leffa nearly lived there and lived through the first part of that, by the way, you've now hit the point where a character is so ridiculously overfarmed that decision-making that has served you well in most matches is now failing you because you're not making the right decisions because you don't usually go against a Vindicta that's this over the rest of the game. But I mean, it's not just that. The overall spread is still ridiculous. I mean, Rocane is showing that right now. I think just bullying Yamato off screen at 22K. And at this point, I'll bring back Dan in here in a second. But Dan, you know, what paths to victory do you really have right now if you're BNB?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I think you need like a really good like lash hold or something. Obviously, some kind of engage that's going to give you net you like immediate kills. But the problem is that Hydronation are being so active all of the time that you're not really in a spot where you can just easily set anything up. And one thing I will say too, as we're seeing the mid boss here, just like imagine how like farmed Leffa would be had he gone like the assassinate build. Because like the majority of assassination kills, he didn't have the bonus that you get from like maxing it straight away because he did a different build, and he's still like extremely competitive on the souls. So this could be so much worse from Leffa's POV.
Well, Jake,
huge rejuve take here for Hydronation. I mean, with this kind of a lead, this could really easily turn into that mid walker, opening the next flex slot. But beyond that, I think Hydronation have their sights set on a really big team fight victory. I will say that presents an opportunity for Big and Brawlic. I think their best hope is going to be a big team fight defense of a walker, but with the rejuve, it's got to be more than just defense. It's got to be a very clean defense. If they give up too many kills of their own, even trades, I don't know if that'll be good enough with Hydronation being able to just respawn on rejuve and keep the push.
I think the biggest thing that's just so awful for BNB right now, yes, they're overall behind, but when you have your Yamato as your least farmed character on your entire team, as you go into the mid game, it's just not good. Also, you see right now the bullying attempts to swap on to Poppers right now, where Poppers legitimately could get soloed by Paradox here, even if there wasn't the backup in the area. Like, to be put into an area, Jake, where your decision-making Yamato has to be run rather than go deeper, it's just not how you want the game to go down as a Yamato player.
Yeah, there's just not really a threat from Big and Brawlic to actually turn around these attempts from Hydronation. So Hydronation are willing to really push the risks, and Yamato with no ulti really doesn't have any business actually taking this engagement. Lash hoping for something, but it's so hard for him to even look, as this beautiful position there from Paradox, really zoning away the rest of Big and Brawlic. Ulti's popped, Hyper Beam as well as the roll. Looking like a decent roll for Gibbs, but he's so low under so much pressure, getting smoked by this damage. Even the goo ball isn't enough to tank through it. And this game may be over, ZP.
Yeah, and May might be the most generous world possible, as at this point, if you're BB, you're hearing boss music every time Vindicta takes to the sky. Just, it is absolutely brutal. They're pretty much out of options here. Even if they landed the best Death Slam ever, Jake, I think Hydronation would just shrug it off and kill them anyways. It doesn't really matter now.
Yeah, at least there's no 7 ulti to close the game, but Leffa is going to secure the game back out, grab the buffs. I think this is just going to be a first phase patron drop from Hydronation. I would expect them to back out here, given that their two players aren't really attempting to participate in this fight, but Hydronation are going to get everything else besides the finish of the game here, and it's just going to be a matter of time as they get everything on the map. And then Big and Brawlic, I mean, you got no choice but to come out here and take a big risk, but it's such a telegraphed play. Maybe a grab on Hydration here. Lasso is available, but unable to find it. I feel like Ido really needed that there.
They had to go for something, and now you got another urn being turned in by Hydronation, as it is just getting choked out here. I mean, it is 50% more souls at the 21-minute mark. The question is not, could they ever have an even team fight? The question is how many players would it take for Hydronation to win an XV6 right now? And honestly, They could easily do, I think, a 3v6, Jake. That's how bad the difference is between the teams.
Yeah, you're starting to get out of control here. This is going to be the attempt for Big and Brolic. They're going to come out on the map, try and take some kind of engagement. Excuse me.
Well, Cal.
Not much of an attempt.
He kind of looks around, like, everyone's running, or is dead, or is about to be dead.
Lash ult,
slam.
kill 10. The coach.
Kill 10. If only. Well, you got the storm cloud coming on out. B&B falling by the wayside, and Hydronation here in our special best of 5 money match. Coming out strong here, Jake. Decisive play, leading to a firm start to the series for Hydronation, 1-0.
I talked about this. The psychological effect in a best of 5 series of an extreme blowout is rough, and this is the best place for Hydronation to get that kind of a blowout victory. I mean, Big and Brolic are going to be reeling. They're on their heels right now. They just drafted like their comfort. I think they pretty much got more or less what they wanted in terms of their hero pool, what they're comfortable on, what they feel they're the best at. And Hydronation just wiped the floor with it. Like, for Big and Brolic, this presents a real dilemma. Do you go away from your comfort picks? Do you feel like they weren't working? Or do you think maybe we just didn't execute well enough? We can win this game if we play it a little bit better. Because honestly, Hydronation, I felt kind of lost the both side lanes. They weren't that dominant. They won the mid lane with Leffa having a great start with the help of Hydration. But this wasn't like a laning phase blowout. This was like Leffa getting ahead, out rotating you, and just like so many team fights going against you. A couple big mistakes, like think about that failed kill on the 7, who then turns it around and kills 3. That should not have happened, right? Like, that's a major mistake for Big and Brolic. Maybe you could think, you know, run it back. The game's just going to go so differently. But getting blown out by 50, 60K souls in a game of Deadlock at this level, it just does not feel good.
We're going to bring back in Dan here as we look at some highlights. And, you know, Dan, it just felt like we were watching the Leffa show for a while, and then you look at the rest of Hydronation, and the soul count for players like Rocane just went up and up and up off the carnage being just absolutely dished out from Leffa going to teleport to teleport to teleport. I mean, we need a teleport counter there, Dan, it felt like.
Yeah, it all lined up really well for Leffa. You don't normally see Vindicta, you know, being able to be so successful, being so mobile, because that is the greatest challenge for Vindicta. But yeah, Leffa did an incredible job, hit every single assassinate. And again, it's like he didn't have assassinate, you know, leveled up to the degree that he gets the big bonus from it. So all the money he was getting, looking so farmed, was just straight from just owning so many people on a consistent basis, getting all the free farm, the efficient farm, using those TPs effectively. And the fact that, you know, B&B didn't manage to keep, like, you know, we can see on the clock here, it's about like 10 to 12 minutes in, and that's when the farm was already dipping for B&B, where they're not potent enough in some of these fights, which just allows Hydronation to just kind of just extend their lead even more, because their players are so individually good that you can't just, like, you need a bigger advantage, you know, to play with than just like getting a good timing on them. So having a start like that is not something that can happen again for B&B. And like you guys said, you know, the dilemma is that how do B&B draft if they can't draft their comfort?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing here, and you know, this will be my last point before we go to the break, Jake, but it's like, you look at what happened here. I feel like B&B, you know, for better or for worse, they're kind of locked into that first pick Viscous, and it might limit their draft options if they really want to make sure Gibbs gets Viscous no matter what.
I mean, they've won with it so many times before. If I were them, I feel like you can't write it off after one game. If Big and Brolic come back in and they just draft something like 180 different, I think like they're just mental boomed, and it's going to be too hard for them to make a comeback. I think they've got to stick with their guns at least for game 2 and just deliver a better early game, you know, really the mid game. I think Leffa's rotations were just way too explosive. Maybe a better performance in the mid lane, maybe something like the Bebop to check Leffa could have been a better allocation of resources for Big and Brolic. So I think there's still hope for them in this series, but honestly, getting blown out like that in game 1, I said it before, right? It doesn't feel good, and there starts to be a point for Big and Brolic where do you have that like mental wherewithal to come back and actually have that 0-0 mentality, actually be mentally fresh in game 2? Not many players and teams can really do that, frankly, from this position.
Well, B&B, they are getting tested here today. 2-time champions in a row. They have been the kings of the North American scene for a little bit now, but Hydronation saying, we've held that crown way longer than you have, and we want it back. They kick off the series 1-0. Will B&B respond? We'll find out after the break. We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night in North America, number 18, presented, of course, as always, by Intel. I'm ZP here with Jake. And Jake, Hydronation coming out of the gate strong, looking to reclaim the crown. A statement made in map 1.
Yeah, it's very early in a best of 5 series, right? There's a lot of comeback potential here for Big and Brolic, but it would be a comeback, right? That's a statement victory with a complete domination of the map. Really, no team fights Big and Brolic are able to win. That's a gut punch here for game 1, and for Hydronation, newly reformed, bringing Leffa back into the lineup, making all these changes, floundering a bit in previous weeks. They look to have put those struggles behind them here. They look to be back and on the road to reclaiming their rightful spot. I think fair to say, based on the historical performance as the champions of Deadlock Fight Night North America.
Well, speaking of statements, if you want to make one at home, there's no better fashion statement to make than picking up some hot new merch. That's right, you can get Meowdered, you can get a walking urn, you can still get gooped. I think that's still on there. We just kind of rotate what we advertise, but there's cool
stuff. The
urn
goes crazy, actually. Yeah. I want the urn sweater.
So if you look at it as like, it's kind of versatile where, you look at it as like, that urn could be anything. But you would know exactly what the urn is. But regardless, we got to bring him back one more time. No, not DDK. He's off on break. That's right. The one and only Jason Kaplan. Jason, welcome back.
I challenge you to say something nice about me, ZP.
Honestly, Jason, I think you have great intelligent input when it comes to the teams and the game as a whole, and you put in a ton of work behind the scenes that not everyone actually realizes. You are one of the hardest working people behind the scenes on the show, period, and probably just in general. You're great.
You were ready for that, Jason. You were not ready for that.
No. I thought he was just going to give me some like random bullshit, but he actually said something kind of nice. Okay, all right. You can be nice sometimes. Yeah, it's I'm not really used to you being nice to me, but yeah, I'm happy to see Hydronation back. To be honest, I find it very weird though that Lef is back on the team. If I'm perfectly honest with you guys, for the reasons that he originally was dropped on the team. I do wonder if there's like still some bad blood. I'm assuming kind of not within the roster. Maybe his stint in EU under the name of Maidong changed his ways, and he's able to rock pretty well within the team. And then also leads you to wonder, like, Rocker, why is he back all of a sudden? I'm kind of getting the feeling maybe Hydronation have been signed to an org and they haven't told us yet in preparation for June.
Well, if they ever get signed to an org, thank God, because if anything would stop the roster mania, that would at least help. Like, then you actually have to deal with contracts versus, like, you had a bad game, you're off the team, or you're just mad at something and you quit the team, or God knows what has got into Hydronation's roster happenings. But it is B&B with the choice of first or second pick. They decide they want first pick this time around. We'll see if they take off the board. Is it Vindicta? No, it's Mirage. They still fear the Mirage, Jake.
Just running it back so far. We'll see if they go for the Viscous first again. I don't think it's crazy for Big and Brolic to just go again on their comfort picks. I think honestly, like, it's what's brought them to this much success. I think if you try to do like a huge change up now, you're almost assuredly going to lose because you're just not going to play your game well enough if you're going completely away from what you've been practicing, what's been successful for you. So I'd love to see Big and Brolic double down on the comfort picks, like maybe get the idle pocket out, and anything that's like going to be particularly just individually strong for them is I think what they need here in game 2. Beyond even like, obviously you want a good team draft, but just get people their best heroes and don't ask too much in terms of flexibility. After a beatdown like that, you want everyone coming into the laning phase feeling good.
Yeah. Step 1, get Ido off Holiday and put him on a playmaker, I would say. I mean, obviously, Holiday can be a somewhat of a playmaker, but you think back to when they originally had their success. I mean, his Abrams was able to put in work, his Pocket, Yamato, like he's got a lot of different heroes he can play to be effective. And well, speaking of ban away the Vindicta, they actually decide to take it away themselves.
I like the approach of taking away the Vindicta just because you think about Leffa's ability to take over a game on characters that just have disproportionate impact on a carried level. Vindicta is one of the best in the business right now, and characters like Infernus don't quite do what they did during Leffa's golden era. So to me, Jake, even if Leffa plays really well on anything else, I feel like Leffa may not hit the same potential that he can currently do on the modern Vindicta. As look at the Mo value right now, Jake. Mo, first pick coming out of Hydronation. The mole stocks continue to rise.
Yeah, I'm curious if they won't go for something like a Bebop, maybe to put some more threat on the Vindicta. And speaking of Lefa's pick, I do feel like the Yamato is still a great option for him. Like being this ultra late game, still strong in the meta, it's something that Lefa is very personally comfortable on, has like a great mechanical ceiling on. I think the value on Mo makes a lot of sense with how important we've been talking about the mid lane as being, with Mo being fantastic at not only soaking tons of lane pressure, but just keeping waves constantly pushed into the enemy Guardian. That's like Mo's specialty with almost any laning partner. And so, I think this pick really just emphasizes like this desire for teams, maybe not to take the enemy Guardian, that'd be ideal, but at least to just ensure that you're not losing your mid lane Guardian early.
ZP, what I find kind of crazy about this like Mo and Krill being first picked is I think back to like DFN Pacific, and when watching like the qualifiers for those matches, I was just like amazed. I was bewildered. Like, why are these teams picking Mo and Krill first? Now, part of it was due to like the one trickness of some of the players, but I feel like, funny enough, they were kind of ahead of the curve, ahead of the meta a bit, which is kind of odd when you look at that region as a whole. They're typically behind metas, especially like early on into an esports scene. But Mo and Krill has definitely become one of like the strongest picks, I would say, in the game because of that early control. It gives you that snowball potential. And of course, as everything Jake just mentioned.
I think the guy's pick was a mistake here. Even though I don't really love picking Yamato into Mo and Krill, now I feel like if you're Hydronation, you need to give Lefa a hero, right? One of the best backup heroes here, if you don't have the Vindicta, is the Yamato. And we've already seen, going back to early EU matches, how you can use the Mo and Krill to feed the Yamato on top of it. I think Hydronation goes Yamato here, but if they don't go Yamato, you need to ban it as B&B. You cannot give it up. But what's it going to be? Is it going to be Yamato? It's Abrams. Okay.
I mean, Calc, another really powerful player hero combo, I think, for Calc, and one that's been valuable. And I think Lefa, as much as I think Yamato is an amazing pick for them, he's a very flexible player. Like, I think, like, I'm just not worried about Lefa having a good performance on like whatever hero they end up giving him. And so maybe it makes sense to, when you have a highly flexible player like that, to just deprior their picks until later in the draft, since you're going to be feeling pretty good on anything. I'm also curious to see if Kelvin gets banned out here, still in the pool, still available. I think it's definitely on teams' minds. Yeah, Hydronation are going to take it out. Don't want to have to worry about the threat of that frozen shelter.
I mean, I think you're kind of right, like somewhat with the Yamato ban. Like I do look at, I know you're talking about like Lefa being flexible, but like looking at his pick history, like it's Infernus, it's Yamato as like the two primary, and then everything else has like one or two picks. But I definitely agree he's flexible. I think what I look at over B&B side is, I'm assuming this Vindicta Bebop are to be paired together in a lane to look for a lot of early kills, like the hook into stake or stake into hook is insanely deadly. But with the 7-ban coming through, you're kind of forcing Rocker to change things up a bit, which he did have a lot of success in that last game.
The 7-ban here, I mean, it makes sense, especially because Rokane could come in on it, but I don't know. I think putting Lefa on a bad hero, or at least a hero that doesn't have as much impact on the game, I feel like is the highest value play here, because I think the odds are still overwhelmingly high that you get a Yamato pick here. They go Calico for more frontline. I mean, I don't hate it, and I'm trying to think, has Lefa played Calico? I feel like it might have happened at one point. I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like it's just been a while since we've seen Lefa, so I feel like I don't want to overrate what he's picked in the past, because the game has changed a lot since we've last seen Lefa. And I mean, if this guy just like grinds the game, plays, he could easily have some new, very comfortable picks coming out of the pubs. Like, I don't think we saw him in that much Vindicta before either, and he just tore the last game apart.
Just once.
Yeah, so I'm like, I think just focusing on the draft is Hydronation don't need to get like the ideal left here, and hey, maybe they will get the Yamato. I mean, I don't know that Big and Brawlic really want it as badly with the draft they've gotten so far. I think they need a little bit more stuns and control. I don't know that the Yamato really fits the bill for the draft they have so far. And do you really want to steal it away from Hydronation that badly? I'm a little skeptical of that.
How did Sinclair make it this deep?
It's just happening. It is.
I think Sinclair is less prioed than before. I mean, there's some nerfs to the laning stage. They do steal the Yamato away. But I think also with like maybe Warden getting played a lot less, I actually think that hurts Sinclair a lot, because the Warden ult was like the most broken steal ever. Like, think about the ulti steals for Sinclair this game. It's like Abrams is pretty good, but I don't think it's like as crazy as like the Yamato or the Warden. Some of these like really consistent, like you're always going to get value popping that stolen ulti.
I think combo can be a pretty damn good steal if we're thinking about the way Vindicta and Mo play in a lane together. If you just steal the combo when you show up to a lane with Vindicta, that's like some pretty easy snipes as well. But yeah, it's weird to see if Sinclair is kind of like a reactive pick more than like an initial pick in NA compared to EU.
I mean, the Infernus Lefa special. No, not many people are willing to play it, but he is. I'm actually really curious to watch Lefa play Infernus this game. I feel like he's been a standard bearer on the character, has innovated builds in the past. And so it's definitely going to have I think a lot of viewers as well are going to have their eyes on Lefa's build and going to for sure copy it in the pubs for the next few days.
Also, the funny thing there is that there's also a world where they could put Rocane on the Infernus too. Rocane also has like a lot of Infernus play too. Even though I think of the two, it'd be more likely put Lefa on it, but there is a world where it's changed up and you could even see something like Lefa on the Shiv, Rocane on the Infernus, because historically Rocane had played an absolute ton of Infernus too. Being Beef though, final hero, take a look at what they finish off here. I feel like they need maybe something more in the realm of range damage. Like, do you see a Wraith here last pick? Okay, Pocket. Okay. You give Ido the ball. We know what Ido is going to be playing here, but it's also it's also interesting because you would have thought Ido maybe would be on the Yamato, but pocket-wise, I mean, I do wonder if there's a few sacrilege plays where BNB doesn't have Ido on pocket. I mean, I don't think that's super likely, but also there's a hero pool-wise, it could happen, just to be clear.
Yeah, I think there's some key breakpoints for his Hydronation draft, like when Abrams gets the Phantom Strike online, how Mo's able to have a decent enough early game, and also on Infernus and Shiv. Like Shiv without Kelvin is, I think, not nearly as consistent, and Infernus has been hit or miss. So for Hydronation, this draft, I think, is a little bit less airtight than their last.
Yeah, I believe like Rocane would most likely be the Shiv player for Hydronation since he played it in the past, like with Llama Lords, but I don't remember like his Shiv really standing out. And I know like EU memes on it as just by decay, but the Shivs we've seen lately in NA just have not been, even in EU, have not really been too successful. On the other side, though, I'm kind of curious because Gibbs, remember when BNB won 2 weeks ago, Ido said like Gibbs is an insane player. He's the best Vistas player he's ever seen in his life. And now he's kind of, I think, being forced to like adapt because he's not getting the Viscous anymore. At least the team isn't allowing him to play Viscous. So I'm assuming he'll be towards, I wanted to say the Bebop, but honestly, I'm not really sure anymore because the only play he has so far is Viscous and Ivy together.
I wonder if it's like, is it crazy if he plays Yamato? Because who's the Yamato player if Ido's on pocket?
Poppers, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great game last game with it, so that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't necessarily judge off of that, but yeah, I mean, Poppers on the Yamato and then Ido on pocket would make sense. But again, it's an interesting thing too, just because Ido also still plays a really good Yamato historically, and you wonder if you change it up, given the fact that Poppers did have a rough game. Again, so the hard part is like how much you just do what you've practiced versus how much do you adapt in the moment to the given day. Questions that anyone that is in this sort of scenario will ask, but. Right now, we're just waiting to for the players to get to lobby. Where, by the way, Hydronation is again the team that is waiting, and they haven't given bathroom break as an excuse this time. Instead, what we've heard from Hydronation is, quote, "Never mind, one is missing, deafened in Discord." Just so you know.
I wonder if there's a point where we start like applying punishments for teams who do that.
You got to do a draft time penalty.
Yeah. But bringing up something Jake mentioned, though, about like losing that first match, especially in a best of 5, like it can be really rough mentally. But I'm curious, Jake, because I think I've asked a lot of pros this over the course of my career now. Would you rather lose a close game or lose a stomp? And I feel like most players say they would rather lose a stomp because it's just like, okay, we just got outpicked or something like that. Let's just completely refresh our mind. Where you lose a close game, you think back to that like one mistake you made that potentially cost the game. I'm kind of curious in your opinion with it.
I feel like that's cope. I feel like that's crazy cope.
I didn't say it wasn't copium, but
that's wild copium to want to be stomped instead of, because at least we had a close game. It was like, okay, we almost won and we could like just do better next time and like, push it over. We made that one mistake. But when you get just blown out, stomped, I feel BNB have had to make a huge adjustment. Like they came into the series wanting to play a very different game. They come in game 2 and they're saying, all right, we're going to plan B with some very different picks. And maybe that will work for them. But regardless, I don't think that's ever where you want to be in the series, to be forced into like a definitive plan B. Your plan A completely failed, fell flat. Like, is your plan A because you thought it was your best chance to win? You put your best foot forward on map 1 of the series, knowing it is a best of 5 against a strong team. You don't hold anything back. And so to get blown out when you're giving your all, I think that feels absolutely terrible. And so, the question is, I think BNB wisely have picked a lot of comfort picks. I think they absolutely could make this one more competitive. Maybe not being all in and committed on the Viscous is smart and is like the right play. Do they have what it takes to just recover from, like, you know, a couple things go wrong in this game, and will they start to feel that pressure?
I saw left on Calico, just FYI. So it looks like that. You were right there, Jake.
Wait, Ryan, I was the one bringing up the Rokan on the Infernus as soon as it came up. It was just off the historic. All right. I give you all these props. I banish you, Jay, so I'll call you back some other time. But we are getting into it here. And yeah, taking a look at who's playing what. It's going to be Poppers back on the Amato and Ido on the pocket. You don't take the ball away from LeBron, even in this scenario. So the people are getting what they want. And Rocker on the Shiv. It's an old throwback, Jake, but it works.
And I mean, once again, Hydronation are having Leffa and Hydration in the mid lane. And I think this is going to start to become a look for them after seeing it here in 2 games with 2 of arguably your strongest mechanical players laning together in maybe the most impactful lane, you know, getting the early Mo Krill to prioritize that. And this is also a really scary lane. One of the few lanes I think that can tolerate the amount of harass with Mo Krill being able to tank through it. And then, I mean, the tower dives are going to be really scary if Leffa gets online.
I think the thing I like too about pairing the Mo in this lane with the Calico is that if you do get an HP edge, like Calico is one of the most aggressive characters in lane period, especially with the last hitting change of just diving on you once you have melee lifesteal and you have even a smidgen of advantage. Like, it's one of the few characters in the game that can make, you know, even a Yamato Geist lane at times wonder, oh boy, should I go in?
Yeah, it's a serious threat. 2 insanely good last hitters. I think Mo Krill and Calico are probably some of the best last hitters in the game right now with the shotguns and high fire rate. Pretty unique in that regard. And so I'm definitely going to be watching the soul count in the mid lane. That's something that has got to be a little bit scary. Ooh, like a failed dash from Shiv. Could be punished. Just barely gets out in time. See if he has the souls to buy a healing right. Seems like he will.
I kind of dislike this matchup for Hydronation where, you know, Rocker just kind of came back to the game, right? It's like, welcome back to Deadlock. Have a lane versus Sinclair, who's still one of the most difficult characters to lane against. I'm not actually too surprised that Rocker's eating perhaps a little bit more damage than the norm right now in the right-hand side. It actually makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, it's a scary spot to be. Lane's relatively stable for now. Slight soul lead for Hydronation just based on last hitting. But neither team able to secure much here. Expected to be relatively quiet in the early game. That being said, Calico definitely has the opportunity to pop off, especially Geist this low already. Geist can kind of struggle when she falls behind in lanes due to that, you know, needing to consume HP. And here we go, Calico senses weakness, already diving in for more. And Mo keeping that wave under tower. Yamato can't really leave or else she's going to miss way too many souls. And that's going to be an easy kill for Leffa. Maybe 2, actually. I think Leffa wins this.
Yeah, look at the melee lifesteal. It's got to come back in. It's going to get another heal up in the middle of this trade as Leffa just punches away. You know, with how good Leffa is playing today, does this bring anyone back in time and just wonder, how in the world was Leffa off this team for even a second to begin with? Like, what is going on here, Jay?
Look, he got his European vacation in. He's back. He's tan. He's looking good. Out on the server here, ready to do some damage.
Got some games in on the Spade server, realized it was actually for the best. You know, real deep cut on that one at this point, but hey, it's where we're at as Rocker. Looking pretty healthy in lane. BNB, you know, not wanting to fall behind early here once again.
Yeah, that mid lane is definitely a point of worry, though. Definitely the place where Hydronation want to keep the pressure on, especially based on how the last game went. I mean, you can think of few better heroes than Calico to do essentially what Leffa did last game, which was like get super active, take an early lead, snowball it. We've seen some teams, you know, winning the mid lane and then sending one player to get active, the other player focuses on farming. But last game, Hydronation, just both of them got active, right? They like doubled up on it, and it really turned explosive and turned what basically were even side lanes into decisive wins for Hydronation. And with the tower already being this low, I mean, Guardian could go down, maybe not this way, but I think in the next wave.
You don't want to lose middle lane this early, and yet on the same note, I don't think there's anything that can be done to really prevent it. You can't pull people from other lanes this early now, Jake. And again, when you get a Calico that starts getting this level of early edge, that's backed up by a Mo that could just throw themselves body and soul directly at you. Yeah. I mean, that Guardian's gonna go down. Pure and simple.
Yeah, Bebop could turn the fortunes around. Hyper Beam online. This is certainly, the side lanes are definitely going to be the place where you need something to happen, because I think you're right. It's just a matter of time there in the mid lane for Hydronation to pop it open and then be free to go elsewhere on the map. But these side lanes have been quiet, far too quiet, I think, for Big and Brawlik's taste, for their preferences. They do have ultimates online, but look at those health bars for the mid laners. I mean, Yamato and Geist struggling. Swap used, though, in the mid lane. But it looks to be just like basically delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, the swap, which, by the way, is one of the main threats that could keep people off the tower. Now they don't have to worry about it. You still have decent health on your Mo, on your Calico. You also have to respect the Mo at all times, because if you're even a little bit out of position, you're just going to die to combo. And yeah,
love the early fielding.
Quick parry in. There's a combo onto the Yamato. Yamato, it gets the shadow transformation off. Restorative walk and full HP heal. Well, near full, and, you know, could have been a lot worse, I suppose. Just if they had a little bit more damage before the shadow transformation came in. Still lose the guard.
I mean, Yamato lives, but yeah, like the damage has been done here. I mean, Lefa and Hydration are going to be able to buy, reset their HP. Yeah, they're down ultis. Maybe they'll wait a little bit before they get active, but the mid lane is going to become a very dangerous place. I don't think Yamato and Geist can really stay here and farm. They're going to be there now, but I expect to see more action just continuing to pop off in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Geist has no swap. Yamato has no ult. It's not where you want to be. We're sure, on the same note, there's no combo. But this is what we're about to see here, Jake. The mid Guardian is down, and Ava will play. In this case, Calico off on the rotation. This could be devastating to the right lane. A pure 3-on-2 getting set up. The run in from the Calico now complete. Ready for the dive. Here we go. How's this one complete? And right now, they're looking for pocket. Force out the cloak early. And Jake, it might not even be about the kills. It might just be about setting up for another Guardian. But as I say that, it's a quick Ava rotation back to mid.
Yeah, being marked, though, here by the Geist and the Yamato, I think he's going to be able to just walk out of here on Ava, though. It's going to be relatively close, but still has the ulti in reserve, healing right as well to get back to full HP. So ultimately a failed gank. I think that's, you know, like not the end of the world for either team, but Hydronation aren't mad at it either, right? Hydration himself was just there in the mid lane defending, really no tower damage to speak of. And once again, Yamato and Geist trying to play together, trying to fight this, but I mean, combo into insane burst there from Lefa. And now even Great Talon, like, could be dove here. Yeah, this is starting to get scary. Okay, Divine Barrier is going to scare Hydration off. But once again, Lefa just off for a rotation.
I really think the more I look at these games, especially, you know, you're looking at history, but even what's in front of your eyes right now, Mo is the best character to pick early on in your draft, whether it be to hurt a Yamato or empower a Yamato. Mo's impact on what Yamato does is ridiculous. We're seeing it here again, Jake.
Extremely low in Furnace, may need to back off and just reset the health here. Bebop looking to get tricky with it, but Young Cal very aware. Great charge, stun on the Bebop, puts a lot of damage on him. Spells used by Geist. It is going to force that Bebop out and a return away from this engagement. Calico continuing to be active on the map, and Hydronation just slowly trickling up here in the lead. The Big and Brawlik are doing really well to survive these ganks, but still slight outfarm right now from Hydronation.
Well, what's going to happen for Hydronation right now is that having the middle Guardian down, they just have more access to the jungle, more free roam. And again, you take a look at middle right now. 2-on-2 setting up here. Mo moving in here with the Calico, catching the Bebop from the back. Combo ready to go. Gets pushed back a little bit. Dashing. Nope, doesn't like it. Doesn't commit for the combo, so able to get away. Hyper Beam comes out, but Mo just quickly turns the corner, Jake. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, Hydration really just has a great understanding of the limits on the character. He's not forcing into like unnecessarily risky combos. He knows it's not worth trading his life with this kind of advantage as he already has. Infernus doing what he does best, stealing some camps, putting pressure on Geist, who has swap, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Yeah, continuing to be nuked down even after the swap. Very low, burning. Finish comes in here for Lefa right on top of that Geist, and is going to be a cleanup here. Even Vindicta, I think, surely going to die just after the Guardian goes down.
I really loved Rokane's movement, by the way, there, where Rokane went low enough that they were at risk of just getting crunched by Assassinate. And Rokane just took every nook and cranny possible to break line of sight and just burn away anyone chasing. Really good map awareness, although not enough awareness to perhaps go back and heal after that last escape.
It's a really nice gang from Ido. Pops that Infernus and then gets out. Yamato is going to be chasing onto this Paradox, has ulti available, and Flick knows, so he's going to go retreat to the safety of the tower. But Yamato not feeling the confidence to be able to dive. That relatively weaker early game starting to cost them as they look to recover here.
Bebop, look on to Rocker. You have the Vindicta showing up too. Should be enough to kill Rocker here, you would think. Hopper's on the finish. See here for BNB trying to overload into right lane. Rotation though coming in from Hydronation in turn. Everyone, the zip line coming on in. They've taken down Leffa, but now they need to escape. Calc and more have come into this fight. Calc finishes off Yams. Calc feeling rested, moving forward. Now, who else is on the docket as Hydronation continues to rotate over and in?
Seems like it will be a nice hit for BNB. And they're all such low HP. I'd love to see them. Yeah, they're going to go back and get the reset there. And that's the first really solid trade we've seen for Big and Brolic. Sinclair has already used, though, the clone, and so could be struggling to get out of this. That's a really nice dash away. The combo. Yeah, you're done for, buddy.
When you think you're about to get away and the two fists just come on in. Right place, right time for Hydration, who honestly, pretty high game IQ on the Mo here so far, just in terms of knowing where to be, set good combos. Meanwhile,
we're nearing a carry Mo situation right now with Mo having ridiculous farm, Guardian going down. I mean, Mo is 11K. He's actually going to get, I mean, Mo can hit a kind of a crazy carry potential. It's really hard to do, I think, because Mo typically is going to get punished in some of these scenarios when you're comboing, but that hasn't happened for Hydration. He's going to start to get to the point where he's just unkillable when he gets a few more items on this Mo.
You delivered that with all the energy of a weatherman along the lines of, and as we go into Wednesday night, we have the highest probability of a carry Mo situation. There will be, 70% carry Mo's into the evening. Please watch out. You're not wrong though, and it's kind of interesting because it doesn't happen that often, but a Mo that can almost kill you themselves with combo is terrifying. It's not wonderful to go against. It's also gonna be a Mo that can take more risks and play deeper in the enemy territory.
Yeah, even grabbing urns and crossing the map so quickly. The lead, once again, for Hydronation is starting to grow. And this is just shades of game one, right? Not quite as explosive. I think Big and Brolic were more cautious this time around. They felt the threat. But once again, it just feels like Big and Brolic are being choked out. I mean, Bebop's watching this can't be farmed. Okay, the Hyper Beam, hopefully he's going to get a last. It looks like he only got one of those last hits, though. So still two of those large creeps going towards Rocker. Nice trade for them on Hydronation. And the Hyper Beam Force is pretty tough there. Not the trade that Big and Brolic were hoping for.
Meanwhile, Mo Fists continuing to rain down. And
let's check these items. Let's check these items. You got the Warp Stone online. Oh, man. And all these early game items, I love this from Hydration. I mean, he's so tanky, he's so annoying, but he's all invested in all of his slots. I think this is a really smart build because it's one that he's not really playing to carry. He's just playing to be as strong as humanly possible right now at this moment in the game. But that's just what Hydronation needs. They don't really need Hydration to carry. They just need to keep winning these next few team fights and get the rest of their real late game cores online.
Also, can we talk about the absolute state where BNB is in this game where, forget the obvious notes on economy. When your Bebop and your ideal Hyper Beam is just hitting a camp from afar and maybe getting one kill and you're like, this is a good use of Hyper Beam. It's just telling of how pushed back you already are in the game in terms of what you're looking for value at this point. So, I'll bring in Jason here for a second. And, Jason, you've been watching this. You're looking at BNB. What paths do you have back right now, especially with your Yamato at 8K?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you have a path back right now being 20K down, 14 minutes in. Realistically, with just how good Hydronation are as a team and the lack of mistakes they make, I don't see a clean, easy way into it, to be honest. The problem is that Ido, he doesn't really have any carry potential in 11K. As Poppers, like we mentioned in the first game, he's very low on souls, so he doesn't have the carry potential. Gibbs, I actually don't know what he kind of leveled up first. I'm assuming it was the Crow build, but if anything, maybe the assassination actually would have been exactly what they needed to have some sort of snowball chance. But what I've been kind of focused on more so is not necessarily about how BNB get back into this, is that how Hydronation have kind of kept their identity from when they played previously in the 4-lane setup of allowing Hydration just to farm out a lane and using Leffa to just rotate around the map looking for kills and looking to create opportunities for his team. It's kind of cool to see they're able to maintain that team identity in the change from 4 lanes down to 3.
The Terror of Mo continues. Taking a look at mid lane, Geist wanting none of it. And Jake, you're also right now at this level of farm difference, you're just seeing a difference too in how jungle invades are going down. Hydronation is eating at B&B's table, and there's very little they've been able to do about it.
Yeah, another pickoff comes in. Leffa shuts down Gibbs. Another Urn comes in. And I actually really like that Hydronation aren't forcing walkers. They know that I think one of the biggest risks they could take right now would be a walker attempt with the threat of Bebop and I mean even Pocket being pretty fantastic at defending walkers in a lot of these situations. And they're not forcing it. They're sending waves into walker, forcing a response, but they're never taking the fight that deep into Big and Brawley's territory. And so Big and Brawley keeps showing up and trying to turn things around, and it's just going against them. Leffa is just picking players off without ever overcommitting.
I mean, Leffa's been making wonderful space. Hydration, anytime combo has been up, someone has been getting a beatdown. And Hydronation, as a result, has been able to push macro objectives really well. I mean, Jake, you look at this here, forget about having a flex slot. We're 16 minutes in, and there's not even a single Guardian down in favor of B&B. They're at the point where they can't even do builds the way they want to or have any access to the map as Calc finds Ido. We barely talked about Ido on Pocket this game either. That's scary.
Yeah, and 2 snipes missed there from Gibbs, not able to get a connection. He's gonna just satisfy himself with clearing a wave. Leffa does go down, and so the rotation wasn't for nothing. But elsewhere on the map, I mean, Hydronation are dominating the lanes. They're shoving them all in. Furnace may be in trouble here, is gonna even get out with his life. Walker is extremely low. Seems like more support is coming in now on Yamato with no ulti. Yamato's in trouble, being doped by Shiv, dead to rights here.
Also, we didn't really talk about it, but, you know, it hasn't really been needed with how the rest of the team's been playing, but you talk about Yamato counters. Not only has Yamato been getting comboed repeatedly, but Shiv also can make Yamato's life a living hell with Killing Blow as you get into the latter parts of the game. So even if Poppers had farm right now, where Poppers, by the way, does not have farm, it would still have huge overwhelming options to shut down. But you know, right now you're at 10k Yamato versus most of the other team being at 19k, including your heavy hitters. There's no sadder spot to be in as Yamato with that level of farm.
Well, it could be raining, so, you know, there's that. At least it's a sunny day here in the Cursed Apple, but it's not much else that's optimistic right now for Big and Brawley. I mean, I feel this game, they've been very defensive. They've been, you know, making sure that the lead doesn't explode. But in response, Hydronation have adapted perfectly. They're just trickling things in little by little, objective by objective. You know, now taking some walkers, and the space on the map is starting to get really, really constricted as Hydronation are bringing heavy numbers here to this side of the map. It's going to be a Sinclair kill, but I have to think there could be more on the cards here. Hydration scouting out those opponents, the rest of the team bearing down here on the mid lane.
Yeah, I said at least it's not raining, but in my head it just turned into a chorus of "It's raining Mo's." Hallelujah, it's raining Mo's. Like, kind of has been. If you're thinking about fists at your B&B, has not been safe to traverse the map at all, as Hydronation right now in a near unassailable position right now, Jake.
Yeah, I think they're going to start to think about a mid-boss take here very soon. Vindicta, though, has some low targets on the enemy side, could turn things around, but it seems like Hydronation left the tankiest players around to start, you know, dealing with that push start in the mid lane. Combo comes in onto Ido, who is dancing with death there, taking some risks on Pocket, but that's the threat that Mo brings against those slippery heroes. They're not so slippery when Mo's got his big grubby fists on him.
They're kind of grubby when you take a look at it. They've quite literally been through the dirt before he hits you. Kind of his thing as a mole. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't get better. And, you know, maybe
Hydration is just Leffa's solo diving a walker, meanwhile, fearlessly, is going to back out and escape and pull the rotation at the same time. So now I think this mid-boss take is essentially free for Hydronation. I mean, they're on their way to wrapping up game 2. ZB, this is a 50k lead at a lower net souls. I mean, I think this game 2 is over. I mean, realistically, ZP, I don't see a way back into this for Big and Brawley. And this one slipped away in a different manner. It wasn't a blowout, but it just trickled away against you. So what do? You've tried taking the fight to Hydronation. You've tried playing it slow and defensive, and both times they've thwarted you.
I think part of it is that, look, at the very least today, the Poppers Yamato has not been performing. It has been forget the fact that there's a team difference, even within the same team, you know, whether it be B&B strategy, Poppers personal performance, or what, they have not been using the Yamato well. I mean, it has been a very poor Yamato 2 games in a row. Again, even relative to their own team. They go for a Bebop build, which, kind of necessitates you do well in the early game, and you get crushed in the early game. And, it's a quite Vindicta game. The things you would expect to be doing well for B&B at the parts of the game where they usually would be doing well have not. And their mid to late game options, even within their own spectrum of team farm, have not been where they need to be. I mean, pretty much anything that could go wrong for B&B kind of has gone wrong in this game, Jake.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the mid lane with the domination that Hydration and Leffa put on. I mean, in Poppers, I think it's less about him and more about the fact that he's just getting worked in the laning stage and has to, make a comeback in both games, which is so difficult when you get smoked in the mid lane and the other team takes that advantage further. Poppers forced into a pretty bad ult here. I think he's gonna, just get bursted down. And this is just the overwhelming stat check coming in. This is GG.
Yeah, they're gonna be able to go in here, grab both shrines, Stage 1, the patron, and yeah, even if you want to make an argument of, play it safe and leave, why?
I don't think you are
gods among men right now with this level of soul difference. You are simply sitting in there, and it's kind of the old thing of, when you get strong enough, you won't have to dodge, full-on Matrix type of reference. Yeah, they don't need the dodge right now. They can just hold up their hand, and half of B&B will fall over.
Yeah, they're down a couple ultis, so maybe they go a little bit slower here, but I think as long as they don't dive the fountain, they should be just fine. Big and Brolic looking to get active to force something. Maybe a hyper beam could clear the pit here. Patron under pressure. Hydronation are being a little bit patient here, not sending everyone through to the pit, forcing a couple key ultimates out, but Bebop can't even stay in the hyper beam. Patron's down, GG.
There's nothing hyper about that beam at that point. It's more of a tickle beam when you have this level of soul difference between the two teams. But look, this just got out of hand from early game on, and B&B just not having the options to go back. And I just wonder back to the draft here, Jake, where to an extent they denied otherwise great options that Hydronation like to run, but options that didn't really seem great for B&B themselves in this instance.
Starting to wonder how this team ever lost a championship, right? Watching this ZP. I mean, we're in a best of 5 here, but it doesn't feel like it's going to go on much longer. Hydronation, these were just wins, right? Like, we see a lot of close games here in DFN, but these are not close games. These last 2 have both been blowouts back to back and in different fashion. Hydronation showing not only are they extremely strong once again, but also they have versatility. They have different styles to play. And I'm starting to wonder, what can you do for Big and Brolic? I mean, this is where the mental advantage really starts to compound. Like, you got blown out twice in a row. I mean, under Jason's announcement, hey, it's great. We got blown. Guys, we lost so bad 2 times in a row. I'm glad the games weren't close, guys.
My mental state really is so clear right now, Jake, and so is theirs.
What is your mental state right now? I was about to call you back in, Jason, but it was a pummeling. Half the highlight reel is just going to be Mo unleashing. But what do you got?
So to be fair, like, getting wiped out once, okay, I could see the bounce back mentally, but twice in a row, yeah, no, that's really rough, man. Like, looking at this game, I look at B&B and I'm like, what is your answer to, I don't care what hero they throw at you, to Hydration and Leffa? Like, what is your answer to them as a combo, as a team? Because they can play really well together. They can play apart really well. Leffa, once they get control of that lane, he's allowed to roam around the map, and Hydration's able to go back to farming the way he typically would when it came to a laning stage. They just don't have an answer for how mechanically blessed these 2 players are, and I think that's where we have to look towards. Maybe you put Ido in the lane up against this. Ido paired with someone who can kind of play at the same level and hopefully keep things even. Do you try to force those 2 players on specific heroes that you can more likely beat in the lane? And I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't think they're going to find the answer in this best of 5.
Well, I'll tell you what they're going to do here, and I feel very confident about this, Jake, just because of how much trouble it has given them in these games so far. Mo's dead. The hit has been put out. Mo will be banned. And if Mo isn't banned, he should be banned. I think if you're B&B, that has to be your step 1 on alternative strategies here. Hydronation has shown that they would pick him early.
Go ahead, Jake. I want to go off on this point, but go off.
I think I agree at this point. Like, you got to ban the Mo, but that just shows the type of hole that you're in here in the series. Like, I mean, realistically, it's hydration you're talking about. You're gonna ban hydration out. Good luck with that. Like, good luck. Oh, he's gonna do so bad in the second best character. Yeah, it's gonna be really rough for him. So I think the hole is so deep. You at this point in the series, like, yeah, just ban the bow or first pick it yourself and force Hydronation to show you something different. But I think you're just hoping for an extra lesson after class at this point. I don't think you're starting the comeback with the Mo ban and getting Hydration to play something else that he's also fantastically good at.
I'm gonna answer as well here, ZP, because let's think about it this way. They didn't win the lane because of Hydration. They won the lane when Leffa was able to dive into enemy territory and win a 1v2 without Hydration there. Like, Hydration sat in lane, kept farming. Leffa, I'm gonna go 1v2. And from that point, it didn't matter what hero Hydration was on, Leffa was gonna win that lane, I feel like. And that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't think it's a pick. I don't think it's a hero base that you're losing on. I think it's just a skill base at the moment. You're not putting the right players up against them that you need to put against them. And something I did want to mention before, or at some point during that game, is that, for the original reasons Leffa was dropped from the team, I'm surprised to see him come back, but I feel like the stint and what he learned in EU, I feel like hopefully he matured as a player, because in the solo lane, it kind of fit into the style he liked to play. He wasn't very communicative. He liked to do his own thing. He didn't really organize with the team to make hits happen and stuff like that. But it seems like right now he's communicating a lot more. And I think he realized kind of how good he had it within Hydronation as a team. And I think he wants to be back at that top level, because it's tough playing across the EU and it's tough trying to find a spot in an NA team.
Well, you know what, Jason? You know what soothes all ills that may have been there historically between Leffa and the rest of Hydronation? Winning. And Hydronation is doing a whole lot of that here tonight. Hydronation up 2-0, up versus B&B. This is Deadlock Fight Night number 18, North America, presented by Intel. What could be match point comes at you after this break. We're back at Deadlock Fight Night number 18, North America. ZP here with Jake. And Jake, right now the revolution is being televised as Hydronation coming back for the throne. They brought out the guillotines and heads are rolling right now on B&B.
The coup d'etat was very shortly lived here. The Kings are back and they look to be reclaiming the throne pretty quickly here today. 2 back-to-back blowout matches here. And, Leffa back in the lineup, Hydration and Leffa laning together in the mid lane. This is looking like the start of a new era for Hydronation.
Yeah, Hydronation, their roster's changed up a lot, and that would put it mildly. Basically, a roster change every week, even when they haven't been on DFN. But perhaps now they've found the magic sauce once more. And we got some magic here on the DFN desk. That's right, DDK back here to talk about the action. And, Dan, I feel like you've been happy watching this, just because I feel like of anyone on the desk, you have been one of Leffa's biggest supporters historically. And seeing Leffa not only being back in, but dominating has to feel pretty good from your perspective.
Feels pretty unfair for the other team. I mean, it's definitely a problem. And I think you guys brought up a great point. Just the fact that you can concentrate the power into, now that we have only 3 lanes instead of 4, is actually a pretty scary prospect. So yeah, the mechanical barrier of entry just got a lot higher in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Leffa, I'm glad to see him on new characters too. I think Leffa's had that time in the lab, not under pressure to perform week to week in matches, and is now just showing us what he's been working on. Vindicta, Calico, 2 picks we haven't seen that much of him on, but looks amazing. Looks like super well practiced. And I mean, I'm not super surprised. Usually these ultra high mechanical skill players, they're not one tricks. They might stick to a couple of really strong picks if that's the meta, but I don't think that Leffa or Hydration is really vulnerable to being banned out, although maybe you're forced to try for Big and Brawlic at this point.
Okay, for B&B right now, the moment of truth. Do they first ban Mo, or do they first pick Mo, or do they receive a Mo beatdown for the 3rd game in a row? Have they learned from their mole-based punishment? What will that first ban be? It's Mirage. So, gentlemen,
one more Mirage ban for the road.
Well, they better pick it first. That's all I know. But also, one thing I need to mention, because a few of us have said it, B&B is just B&B now. They dropped the big and they dropped the Brawlic. That was a branding thing for them. But yeah.
Bed and breakfast, baby. We're in.
Well, I mean, it's bed and breakfast. It's like they got nothing left. They're the ones being feasted upon by Hydronation. They're going to ban Talon, but okay, all right. So ZP.
Pick Mo. They need to pick Mo. I will. Dan, I'm taking over the broadcast right now. Pick Mo. That is you need to do this. Like, we can't see it again, Dan.
And we will materialize this by focusing our energy through the screens.
I'm visualizing a Mo and Krill, man. I'm visualizing it. I'm manifesting it.
Oh!
I mean, all right, in fairness though, like I don't know that any of it matters. Like, yeah, the Vindictus also smoked you in game 1. I tend to think the Mo is what's dominating the mid lane, and Leffa is profiting, not least by being really amazing at the game, but I think the hero pick wise, I think the Mo, we've seen this in EU too, the Mo just being this like immovable object in the mid lane, always clearing your waves, always shoving under tower, always denying. It's really powerful, and I think Hydronation will probably grab it here in the first 2.
I wait with bated breath. Maybe
surely, unless they're actually just flexing if they don't. I mean, after just what they did the last 2 games, like why would you show anything else? Why would you do anything different? Would be a surprise to me.
I want to see it just so that BNB have another opportunity to pick it, but then not, and then ZP get mad.
Okay, so now we're just all in on
you offer me a ZP troll, and I'm interested.
I'm interested in this, but yeah, okay, they picked Mo Krill because
I receive a ZP troll, you say.
Look, Jake, you nailed it on the entire idea. Is like, you have been dominating. You do not need to change your draft strategy at all if you're Hydronation right now. Like, you are sitting pretty. You are happy with all of this. I would say, okay, you've left them the Mo. Take Calico, BNB. Do not let them get Calico. I would, because they might take Calico off on the rip if you don't deny it here. And Leffa on the Calico also not really ideal.
You know what's interesting is we're seeing kind of similar stories a little bit to EU, where, like in multiple different ways. But like one of the stories in EU was that one win had a very specific strategy, found they wanted to win, and their draft had to really align with that strategy. And that strategy didn't give them the option to actually like steal picks from VP, because most of VP's picks wouldn't really like be that viable in their strat. So I think with BNB, what they're doing as well is they're playing very comfort. And so they're not really in the mind to just try to mess with their opponent's bans rather their picks too much by stealing them.
Like the Calvin though, I mean, if you're as far as a change up, I think Calvin is one of the bigger change ups. It's been consistently banned, so if you don't take it first phase, you can be sure that Hydronation are going to take it out of the game. Maybe that lets you as BNB make some of these turnaround team fights happen. They've also got the Bebop for the playmaking, so you know, in theory, I think I like what BNB are working with here. I'm just worried that, you know, based on how the series has gone, this is beyond strategy, and we're in we're at the point of mental domination here for Hydronation, where they're going to be feeling so good and so confident. They're going to be, you know, making plays with each other. For BNB, you're hoping that confidence turns into hubris and Hydronation start overextending and like diving objectives that they shouldn't. But Hydronation in the last game looked really disciplined. I don't expect that from them.
Okay, one thing I will take issue with Hydronation here. Why are you banging the Yamato? Has the Yamato, like, okay, Dan, objectively here, have you felt threatened looking at the Yamato play of BNB in the first 2 maps? Like, was there anything in these first 2 maps to suggest to you that you need to get rid of the Yamato? Because the Yamato was just getting pounded by Mo repeatedly. You know, and trying to get anything going. Like, maybe the Kelvin, I don't know, maybe the Kelvin being in play made them worry about the Mo, or rather worry about the Yamato a little bit more, but I just don't feel like Yamato was something that Hydronation needed to take off the table the way things have gone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, you've got kind of the natural counter with Mo, and then also like I feel like you're already helping Poppers out by just not allowing him to pick it and again. So yeah, maybe they're just feeling charitable in that regard.
I think, like, what ban does Hydronation, what do they need? You know, like, maybe they don't need the Yamato ban, but like, is there anything they do need to ban? I guess you could, maybe you could have thought to like ban a Viscous, just to like know that that's something that BNB particularly like to use, and maybe you would never pick for Hydronation, where they maybe a little bit more likely to use the Yamato themselves. But at this point, I think Hydronation don't have to take it too seriously here in this draft. The Shiv Calvin comes through though, so I kind of like what BNB are putting together here for what may be their final stand in the series.
Yeah, I mean, they grabbed the Shiv, so Rocker won't be able to go back to it in this next setup. But I mean, I assume for Hydronation, you're probably gonna get Infernus now, from just to round out the team. Like, you think about what they're missing, who would be playing what, like, or Seven actually. If Seven isn't picked by BNB here, Seven probably gets picked next round by Hydronation, especially now that they've picked Infernus. Now Seven is really super double getting picked.
I feel like you want the anti-heal, you know, with Infernus is like what a lot of teams, I think. like they interpret like the Abrams Morin Krill Geist. Maybe we want some anti-heal. We could get it on Infernus.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about the Infernus for B&B though. I wouldn't have minded it on Hydronation, but I feel B&B maybe are taking it as like a semi-block pick at least, knowing that it is a good matchup into the Shiv. But I like you guys said, I think the 7 is maybe a better hero in general right now, like significantly better. Maybe the matchup is a little bit nicer for Infernus, but you're really lacking control for the 7 ulti at this point. There's like not really much at all for that. I guess the Bebop hook, but that's not necessarily going to be the answer, especially with Bebop typically initiating the fights with hook. I think 7 is going to get a ton done in this game and have a lot of space to work with. And they get the pocket as well for that dot effect. I'm really curious to see who plays the pocket. Is this a Lefa pocket with the Mo and Krill in the mid lane? That could be exciting.
Must be a right here.
I think it kind of has to be a Lefa pocket because I'm just thinking about who else would he be on here. I mean, Lefa could
maybe
play
the
7.
Geist is I think decent for him.
Yeah,
I don't think he would play 7. I mean, that just doesn't seem like a Lefa hero to me. But
he's played 7 in the past, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Rocane that does a shift. Like either way, it's going to be a little bit off the norm. But I do think in terms of value, B&B getting Viscous last is pretty good value given the fact that they were investing first pick on the Viscous before, right? Where in terms of value, going from Vindicta first pick, or rather going from Viscous first pick to Vindicta first pick and still getting the Viscous, pretty good for B&B relative to draft number 1, which, you know, kind of looking back on it, may have been quite bad.
Cube is a great solution as well for a lot of the like lockdown that Hydronation have. So Paradox Swap, the Morin Krill lockdown, you know, like, so, you know, it's definitely, I think it's going to help with survivability. So I definitely like it.
Yeah, the saves and team fighting look a lot better this game for B&B than last. And I think they stole some important pieces from Hydronation. And so I think draft-wise, I do like this. I think the Shiv Kelvin has looked really, really good. When you do find success on Shiv, it's often with the Kelvin, you know, in tow, right behind, turning around these fights where Shiv is just barely living with that deferred damage. So there's something to work with here for sure for B&B, but I think eyes on the mid lane. I mean, you just cannot get dominated like you've been the last two games where the mid lane just gets crushed by Mo +1 and the game is almost over from there.
Well, guess what's coming the middle lane? That's right. You guessed it. It's Mo +1. We'll see if the Vindicta Bebop can go a little bit better. And it is left on the 7. Okay.
It is interesting. I would have thought he would be picking like a little bit more of like an early game active character, but maybe he'll play the 7 with that signature aggression that we've come to expect from Lefa.
Yeah. And Jason was right. Jason was telling us, like, you go far enough in the past where it's been so long, I honestly forgot. Pocket is in Rocco's hero pool. And I was thinking that Rocane on the Geist would make sense if Lefa was on the 7, just because, like, that also is something that Rocane has played a lot. But also, Jake, they keep the hydration Lefa synergy for middle lane. If the idea is, like, we want 2 of our most mechanically skilled players in middle, well, they did again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure these guys won't be leaving the mid lane for quite a while, unless there's like another roster shakeup for Hydronation, which, you know, you won't rule out at this point. But honestly, with the way these performances have gone, surely not after this week. Let's see though, the series not over yet. Still an opportunity for Hydronation to mental boom and cut all their players.
Honestly, completely true. It's not the scariest thing about that statement. It's not hyperbole. If Hydronation got reverse swept, there would probably be roster changes based on history. Like Hydronation, you cannot even complain about us saying that because you know that is what has happened in the past. We have the receipts. But I agree. Right now, it is looking less likely that that will happen this week.
Early pressure on towers, both side lanes, getting wave shoved under, but early monster rounds from the Bebop. I think this is in an attempt to just keep the waves off the tower. I actually kind of like this as a sort of a response to the Mo, where I think the biggest problem with the Mo in the early games, Rocane opens up first blood found on the Poppers, who struggling started this game as well. It's been a tough series for him so far, but yeah, this monster rounds on Bebop, I actually really like for just keeping Mo off of your back, keeping him at long range where he's not getting that lifesteal constantly on you.
Middle lane just of such utmost importance, the way things are. But right now, I'm also curious on the right lane. Kelvin, also a bit of a lane monster himself, especially with how denies work, but also getting monstrously shoulder charged into the side. But a little bit healing right as rain right after. Early game, interesting though. Hydronation getting a little bit ahead, enough to where I kind of wonder how much of this is coming from denies right now, Jake.
Yeah, I definitely been a strong suit for them previously, just like the mechanics, being able to last hit. 7 under a ton of pressure in the mid lane. Maybe he's going to be forced to buy a healing right himself. Both teams happy to farm trade. I mean, I think Hydronation rather are in no rush to really force this game open. Consistently, that's been the story of the last few games. They're willing to just play the deny game and then look to hit a tempo peak when their ultimates come online just a little bit sooner than their opponents.
Fishcake off on the Infernus. Left lane, kind of interesting. I mean, actually probably more winnable for BNB if they could break anything open right now. Here's to see how this one evolves. Still keeping an eye on the minimap. I'm just, Jake, I'm magnetically drawn to the middle lane, just wondering what is going on within the mid lane, just because it's been the storyline the last 2 games before this.
Yeah, is that an Enchanter's Barrier Rush for Pocket? That's really powerful, I think, with when he's able to get his ulti online with that cooldown reduction. Pocket leading the way on soul count. Geist, Abrams having huge games of their own in the side lanes. This game in the mid lane, I think, is a little bit more stable, but it's the side lanes now for Hydronation, showing the depth of this roster. Pocket ulti, I believe, on 2. It is going to be shut down, though. So Rocker traded back. Fishcake and Ido are able to get something done here on the side lane.
Not bad for BNB. A little bit of signs of life. Also, in terms of signs of life, too, you kind of look at the middle back and forth, and it hasn't been one-sided. I think the threat of Bebop has put a little bit of the Lefa Hydration combo in check. So, not too
dead heat right now in the soul count, so I think you're right about that one. The threat is becoming a little much. The monster rounds keeping the lane off tower, and now it's BNB's turn to start to put a little bit of pressure on this mid lane. I don't think they're going to be, too eager to tower dive with the threat of the combo online. Of course, range is a scary prospect for them. The disarm as well being particularly annoying against Vindicta, right? It's like a sort of a quasi counter to that flight.
Fishcake running right now. Getting cubed though. This next
Ido's in a great spot here, yeah.
Yeah, Flick actually can't escape from that one. Rocker meanwhile coming on in.
Though, he's full HP. He could kill them both here. I think he's got them. Yeah, it's going to be really tough for Ido. He's got to make a play out with this punch.
Yeah, you see the chase down. Ido's going to get away from that one. Just barely. Although if Ido peeks, Flick is immediately back for a carbine. So like Ido actually has to leave and not get sniped off Zip. Flick taking the shot does not land.
Gonna be some nice Guardian pressure though in the side lane. Definitely something you're feeling pretty good about. Ido coming back in without the heal though, so taking a bit of a risk here. Does have Fishcake with him, but Infernus gonna be a little bit limited. And because Ido didn't heal, I think there's an opportunity for Hydration to just keep pouring the pressure on, to come back in and go with the next wave. Beautiful hook down to the mid lane though, and 7 hooked their tower, but hold on, he's turning with the
beautiful
ulti.
is
That's
it?
ridiculous.
Beautiful for who, Jake?
Oh,
it's a beautiful for.
That's so sick. Hydration stole tower aggro for him at the crucial moment. Oh my, the synergy is unbelievable between these two, and they're fearlessly pushing tower. Okay. That's the Lefa special, though. That's the Lefa special.
Yeah, that was intentional. That was intentional. That was the Lefa. I'm gonna do it. Yeah,
actually, the Lefa special. Perfect timing.
Yeah, because I looked at the first. It's like no one's around to get credit. He did it on purpose. Yeah. It's still funny though. Let's just see him face plant into the tower. You're right, though, is that most people other than Lefa don't do it.
Yeah, they bit off more than they could chew though with that hook. I mean, understandable. Hooking the 7 is like the dream target deep under tower, but the ulti is just a little bit too powerful. Lefa's just a little bit too farmed. Hydration is aware enough as well to come in and start tanking that Guardian right at the crucial moment when, I mean, I think Lefa was dead there early enough to give kill credit if Hydration hadn't done that tank.
I will say, I'm kind of surprised it's still in the game. Like, I feel like 2 years from now, we're not going to be in a world where you could just like go into a tower and let the tower kill you and not have a like bad penalty for it and give souls to like everyone on the team or something. Like, that's just like a quirk that I don't think will last, but it's enjoyable.
I believe in Dota it splits the gold bounty among all enemies, so they all get like a very small amount, which is still desirable in certain cases because it's instead of feeding the cores, you feed everyone, which is not so bad. But definitely options for the future in Deadlock. Young Calc getting the pick onto Poppers, who it's been fair to say is not having the ideal series. Lefa though, super low. Oh, just no way he lives. Surely he dies here. Hydration is just bodyguarding, fearlessly tanking the aggro, and I think Lefa's going to get out of that one.
I feel like that's a sentence was said way too much tonight. It's just, yeah, Leffa's gonna get away. Leffa's gonna get away.
There's no way he doesn't back. He's an insane person if he doesn't back. Oh my God, he's gonna buy healing right. All right.
Well,
yeah, this is a too much, bro.
They found his weakness. He never backs. Never show your back to the enemy team. Only go forward.
Yeah, that's a little bit out of control even for Leffa. Game, slight advantage for Hydronation. The side lanes have been going, I think, a little bit even better for them this game, where mid lane is a little bit more of a dead heat, despite that big trade from Leffa in the early game. Yams would love to get active on this Bebop. Would love to like continue snowballing, try to help some of the other players get online.
One of the problems for B&B, when you look at Guardian health right now, it's not quite as bad as previous maps, but middle Guardian real close to going down. Gibbs, meanwhile, into the sky. Easy pick here on the Rokane, and this is quite a bit of damage going on to the right Guardian.
Yeah,
see how long they stay.
It costs them, right? Like in they get the rotation, they get a kill, and maybe another onto Calc, who overstays pretty deep there. But they did lose the mid Guardian for it, which is going to be a pretty expensive loss, considering I believe it's possible for Hydronation to defend. Geist is going to come speed back down that lane.
You know, if anyone in the world would know exactly how far to push a pocket, it's Ido, regardless of hero. Ido on the Viscous, just absolutely no fear, rushing down Rocker there. But, I mean, all in all, Guardian for Guardian, B&B could be in a worse spot right now. I mean, it's not too bad some of the adaptations have had. And like getting trade outs here, like this has by far been our closest map so far of the series.
Yeah, and Shiv and Kelvin are both having, you know, respectable games here, which I think is one of the more powerful combos. Rocker, though, turns around onto Ido using his signature pocket as well, adding insult to injury. And Abrams waiting here in the fog, tries to turn, but Geist couldn't get the swap off, bursted down too quick by Shiv. And that's a nice fight from Poppers, who's instantly over to the TP, tries to get active in the side lane, but there's 3 members of Hydronation here. The TP came through, and Hydronation knows about this. They could take the tower and maybe look for more here. Shiv is not that safe in this position.
Yeah, the TP is interesting. I thought more were going to TP with Shiv instead of just Shiv teleporting over. Now can act as baseline with the new zips coming in. I think Hydronation knows about it, and they're just on the way out not without taking a little bit of the creep camp on the way as Hydronation goes in the full rotation.
Yeah, grabbing some buffs. And this Shiv is starting to be the hope here, I think, for Big and Brawlic. Like, it's the one character that I think could get really active here, could start to, you know, fight back in a meaningful way with the help of Kelvin behind, and Kelvin on full support. That may be one of those key factors as far as turning this game around, turning this series around, really. But Rocker, meanwhile, is going to grab another Guardian, and little by little, Hydronation starting to clear the map.
I mean, they're happy to get 2 Guardians there in exchange for urn control. They're not even really contesting this urn, but given what they got for it, not really too big of a deal. Look, though, in Hyper Beam out for Yams. Our Hydration, Leffa over in middle, just, I think you called it at the beginning of the game, Jake. You said, yeah, I'm not sure they're going to leave middle much. It's been accurate, as Ido, Gooball or not, is getting pummeled. However, not as much as 15 HP. Cal turns the corner. Ay.
A little too close. I like that Abrams voice line. Very accurate. So many low players, though, on B&B, and Hydronation knows it. They've got the comms. The rest of the squad is here to get the cleanups. And some players, Ido, speeding back to the lane, but too little, too late. I don't think there's any chance, really, for a clapback on this side lane. Flick being ganked, but I think is just fine getting out of there with the help of that bounce pad. And if you take stock across the board, all lanes now pushing towards B&B's side of the map, and the lead is small, but just based on the way the series has gone, I have to expect this is a dangerous moment for Big and Brawlic. I feel like you really can't let the lead get any bigger, or, I mean, we know what Hydration can do once they get past that 10, 20K threshold and they start, you know, just clearing your jungle little by little. The advantage grows from there. So B&B, I think they're really needing to get something here, because I'm kind of a big team fight to turn their fortunes around.
Jason, what do you think of fed beefy moles like Hydration right now at 11K souls?
You want my opinion, or you want Dan's opinion?
Oh, no, sorry, I want Dan's opinion. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, my opinion's not good enough. I get it, okay.
No, absolutely. No, you're benched right now. Dan, big beefy moles. What are you thinking right now as this person in a cube is about to...
I feel bad for Jason. I feel like Jason should give his thoughts now.
No. It was my mistake, but I'm going to cover it up.
I'm going to start my own DFN with blackjack and hookers, okay?
I mean, it's almost relevant to at least the blackjack is with Wraith, but no one's gonna answer my question, are they, Jake? I think it's just I'm thrown to the wrong person and it's all over.
Bebop, hello, come on, where was your mind?
Pretty impressive stuff here. Lefa as well, you know, living up to, I think, my expectation of him getting really active on the 7, right? Like, this build is seriously active. He's got the monster rounds as well to, you know, farm accelerate ultra early, but Surge of Power is a really key power spike for the 7, and he's got it online now, starting to shove mid-wave under that walker. And there's a lot of jungle to take right now. I mean, this is a scary moment for BNB. You need to get out of the map. You need to deny some of these jungle steals that could easily come in with all the lanes pushed against you as they are in this moment. Oh, this is going to be beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, we love to see this. Thank you, observers. This is we just watched the jungle farm. I am happy.
The devouring is happening right now as Lefa's just like, yes, funnel all the power into me. And you know what, Dan? This is something that you've talked about a lot for Lefa, is just, you know, soul allocation right now. Just on 7 in his element. We're going to ignore the previous call, and we're back on track here.
Yeah, I mean, when he used to play this, I don't know if he was taking pages out of like Hydration's books, but like he had really good pathing. Like, he understood precisely some of the most optimal pathing and timings for farm on 7, and so he would just try to like really min-max that as much as possible. So it wasn't just that Lefa was really scary in terms of mechanics and just like winning fights and stuff, but he also added this extra skill set where he actually really knows how to farm on the characters. So I'm not too surprised to see 7 being back, and yeah, his soul value will certainly, I mean, it's already ballooning. It is a large balloon, but it will soon become a gigantic balloon.
All right. Yeah, he's cleared his whole jungle back now to the mid wave, but here, fight starting to break out. Ido on the goo ball. Kelvin as well, diving in with Frozen Shelter available. Meanwhile, though, young Calc is just clearing off the backline. There's no damage with these frontline divers, but Gibbs just gets enough done on the Vindicto. Rocker wants to fight, though. Gets that affliction on a few.
Look at middle. Lefa, surely he doesn't just get free walker here.
Oh, he's getting the free walker.
Oh, that's a foregone conclusion. Like, you've given up kills, but...
I mean, all in all, like, this is a good fight for Big and Brawlic, right? They looks to be a winning trade for them, like, numerically, but the fact that Lefa secured this walker, this fight is essentially a throwaway. Swap comes in, and I mean, you know, if Geist even trades 1 here, I think that's pretty bad news. He's gonna get the trade. Hold on, maybe a second possibility. TPing, no way.
I feel like Lefa just made the call of, team, shield me in an endless deathmatch while I kill walkers and get bigger. Because that's just basically what's been going on. It's been endless deathmatch right now in the left lane. Full TDM mode activated.
Oh,
while Lefa now is going for another walker, Jake.
Surely he can't get a second walker. Calc, though, is going to get back, and it's a cleanup. I mean, it looked like a good fight, but just overstaying their welcome. And now 7, max ulti. Bebop, there's no way you're out of there. Yeah, he's waiting for you to climb over that wall, and
he's still going
power. He's going to get another walker.
He's still going for the walker. They brought 2 people, and it was not enough. TDM, left lane, Lefa, walker show, middle and right lane. And you got a little bit of Geist back up this time here as Kelvin may be dead. Geist is like, you can handle the Kelvin. I'm going to shoot this walker.
7 super low, being potentially traded, needs to go down, is in the E-shift form here. Ooh, 1 more burst maybe from the goo ball. He's got to run. Oh, he's too fast.
Once again, Lefa living at 1 point, 130
he's
HP.
Run the Aaron on 1 HP, I'm calling it.
Lefa's allergic to
he's not running the Aaron. Okay, that's fair. Oh, Gibbs with the snipe from downtown. Where even was he? That's like across the map. That's like an insane sightline. What was that? He shot him from like a mile away. Gibbs was on his side of the lane.
Okay, Jake, here's what I have to understand is that with that level of geometry guessing, the JFK files did just come out right now. So I mean,
actually,
maybe
he read the JFK files and so he learned from them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it was
on
amazing.
The grassy knoll with the Geist.
It was a conspiracy generating shot for decades. You know, Gibbs right now just took notes. That's all. But either way, BNB's still in a tough situation right now, Jake.
Yeah, they're starting to make this a little bit chaotic. I have to think, you know, that Hydronation are a little bit less disciplined than they've been in some of the previous games, but they still have such a big lead. They still have a lot of room to work with, and they have been out deathmatching, frankly, even in these chaotic exchanges. Now with 2 walkers down, there's not much more of the map for them to play for. Looks like an engagement, though, on that left side lane. Very important to see if Lefa can get shut down 1 more time. That might be enough to swing his tempo lead down. The E shift, think he's going to stabilize him. The snipe, is he timing it? Oh,
you just see no, Harry Jake, he can't keep getting away from him. We even saw the laser pointer at his head, and Leffa just fakes taking the teleporter and leaves. He leaves Jake.
The CIA, they're looking out for him. They gave him the intel.
I've never been more Jesse Pinkman in my life.
Can Fishcake even do this earn? Like, he's gonna go. Okay, maybe he can. Well, he's visible. Nope. Nope. Run. Rocker has ulti. He could actually kill them all here.
Affliction drops it on Kelvin.
On Vindicta 2. Oh, Vindicta's done for.
That was such a high value affliction, and the pain just continues. Won't be the one to grab the urn though, because he's dead.
Doesn't need to be. 7 ulti over the top now on the Walker. Ido's going down. Walker as well under massive pressure. Leffa's going to get the finish here with the ulti, just pumping that damage, zoning all the creeps away. And 4 dead. I mean, Hydronation could look towards something like a mid-boss. The spawn timers are a little bit low. They might elect to just, clear waves and get as much of the enemy jungle as they can. But we've seen this story too many times today, ZP. Hydronation in full control. It's up to them to be overconfident to force something. And oh, what a beautiful sight. 2 Cinder sacrifices for Leffa. Don't mind if he does.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, this just feels like a commentary on the state of capitalism right now, as we watch Leffa get rich gambling at 27,000 souls when the poor proletariat on the other side is at a mere 17K. What is going on in the cursed apple right now for Leffa to be this far ahead?
I don't know. It also feels like Leffa's playing like a single player game as well. Like he's just out there clearing walkers by himself, just like running around, just doing his own thing. Pretty much the whole game, coming into fights sometimes and just like owning everyone. It's I don't know. Like you can see firstly, I suppose, why the 7 pick feels so comfortable for Leffa. Like this, because it plays really well into how well he can do when he's playing anything on from a solo point of view. Because a lot of the ways that he plays heroes is like he will be that solo guy running around the map, and it just suits his play style really nicely as well.
Ido now trying to get something on the map, trying to clear a wave, but looked to have been a little too greedy. Hook in, but Paradox relatively tanky here, and the rest of the squad is showing up. It's all 12 players into the fight. Gibbs down, Leffa over the top on the height. Oh, this is a scary place to be.
Time to drop some balls. If people are even still alive to be done.
This is dead. Like Leffa, the most farmed hero, can't even see an enemy because they're dead too fast. So that tends to be a bad sign. I'm not an expert, but that tends to be a bad sign.
It's not a good omen, but also, in case people are wondering what's at stake right now, this is our special best of 5. Hydronation, the challenging team, looking to reclaim their former glory, has dominated. And should they finish out this game, as right now the stats look to be leading us to, they will be our champion once more in Deadlock Fight Night North America and be bringing home $1,000. Jake, the path couldn't be more clear.
We need a betting sponsor so we can flash the 100 to 1 odds right now, because that's sort of where it's starting to look here for Big and Brolic. Rejuve. Another urn being dropped off aggressively while they take the rejuve. Surely that's too much. Surely that's a little too risky. But even Kelvin's forced away. He can't hope to contest this. And Rocker's 1v2ing on the sideline. He doesn't care.
An absolute crushing right now.
Vindicta's surely dead, right? On -1 HP, Vindicta.
Well, I see avenues of escape right now. You see it, Vindicta just going, oh god, 12 HP.
Run.
The problem of being near pocket for 2 seconds as Affliction goes off, just, yeah.
Base siege coming in from the left side, and Hydronation are still split around the map. They're not even bringing all their resources to bear here, and they're still just slapping away these defenders like they're melee creeps. Nothing to be had here in the defense. As 7 just clears every single defender as they appear.
I mean, 7 is closer to a 3x gap than a 2x gap right now.
Oh my god.
Oh. Actually, I'm not.
Look at him ulting over the top here. Like, how do you can't even come out on the map right now? He's ulting in their throne. Oh my god, dude. Okay, that's a little. He's farming damage stats now.
Storms have gotten pretty powerful right now, Jake, as it turns out. But that's gonna be first stage patron going on down. Hydronation making it look easy, on their way to being our champions of North America once more.
They should back, though. They're all 1 HP. There's no way you fight on 1 HP. They're all gonna heal with speed amp and then just immediately full send. I'm calling it. It's gonna be everyone speed back to base and then immediate full send in the enemy base. Okay, guys, Rokane overstays their welcome with everyone else retreating. It's a pretty significant mistake, but with this level of advantage, it's well within the margins here for Hydration. And let's be honest, I want to see the Lefa camp. There's a lot of jungle to be done.
If Lefa's just like, hold up, guys, hold up. I know that Jason does a little bit of stat tracking. I need my souls per minute to go up. I'm gonna farm the jungle 2 more times and then we throw him.
You know what's funny about that is that Rokane actually held one of the highest positions even when he stopped playing.
It's true.
Oh,
Seven is jungling. Rokane. Look at. Okay, Zach.
I think the jungling is over, and
he's coming, guys. You think he's gonna make it to the throne in time? Yes, the Kelvin ulti. E7's gonna make it to the fight.
He doesn't have Stormcloud, but shouldn't need it as Hydronation look to put this one away, become the champions once more, and they do it in a fashion befitting those at the top. They dominate, they crush. Hydronation are the kings of North America once more.
Didn't have to wait long for this one, ZP. They're back in force. Rocker goes down, but Patron on 1 HP. It's only through mercy from Lefa that he hasn't already finished the throne, and there it goes. 3-0 sweep, special event, best of 5. Hydronation, it's nothing to them. They cleaned it up in a very quick 3-0 fashion.
Yeah, and they just looked fantastic. All 3 maps long. The one thing I would go back and wonder, it's like maybe you should have done something. Look, Hydronation is real versatile, but that mole, that damn mole, Jake, just every single map, big impacts, but even more so coming in from Lefa, regardless of what Lefa was on. And the 7 Lefa at the end, maybe the scariest, just the soul vacuum in play. We're gonna be bringing Dan back in though, Dan. And again, I know you're a fan of Lefa, so seeing this probably had to feel like a little bit of a masterclass to you.
It's funny. I mean, I don't know how to think about this sometimes because like we've seen so many different versions of this roster recently, but you all have to wonder like why was Lefa gotten rid of only to come back and they look even more godlike than ever. And it's kind of crazy, but it feels like, yeah, balance has been restored to the Force right now because in EU, we've got VP reclaiming their title in extremely dominant fashion, in exactly the same fashion that Hydronation just took their title back, which is just basically stomp after stomp after stomp, which is not typical for, I feel like, DFN as we've seen it in the last like few weeks. So my head's spinning a little bit, but yeah, these guys are pretty good, Hydronation. We have to see them play VP somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we need to see some sort of like an epic showdown because it seems like in either region, there's not many teams who are able to give these champs pause. And I mean, Hydronation back and looking maybe better than they've ever been. Even in a lot of their wins in like the end of their championship spree weren't this one-sided. Like, and I think especially you think about the 3-lane map, Hydration Lefa dual laning together. It looks to be exactly the combo that they needed to unlock the potential of these players.
Also, I would say it's a survivor combo, but the reality is that Lefa has already been kicked off of Hydronation or left or some combination thereby. So it's an original Hydronation duo, but it's not like a duo that has held consistency from week to week, given the fact that Lefa was off the team for a while. But hey, you take a tour in EU, you know, you right the brain a little bit, you come back refreshed, rested, and you just crunch North America, you know, just how it goes. But you look at the stats here and just kind of dominance here, Dan.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's cool to think about is that obviously Young Calc is an addition to the team that's relatively new and happened in some of the shakeups. And Young Calc is maybe the best Abrams player in North America. I think there's a strong argument for that. And Abrams is really good with Mo right now. That, you know, we've seen that dominance from VP using the exact same roster time and again. And those two heroes are central to that. And Hydration already had a really good Mo. It's not like he's picking it up just because it's in meta. When it was not in meta and it was just an available pick, Hydration played it excellently in the past. And Hydronation always had not just like a Mo pick, but like a strategy that worked with Mo as a central piece to it. And so this lineup is actually really strong from the start to finish. It's hard to find any distinct weaknesses, and they got the versatility of really great hero pools. They've got really good eco management. They're very good at like always extracting the most value possible from the economy. Their macro is good. They balance all of these dials and levers really well. And so it's great to see them back in form, because for a while, although it's cool to see new faces, it was a little bit strange to see Hydronation disappear,
Well, this does bring us to our player of the match presented by Intel. And in his own, or in Listic's words, the player baptized on EU soil for his rebirth, the one, the only Lefa, is your player of the match. Jake, a force. Every single map in this best of 5, making it a quick 3.
Yeah, 3 different heroes, 3 different extremely dominant wins, looking masterful on everything he touches. Clearly, rumors of his demise have been greatly overstated because he's back in NA. And honestly, this team looks better than ever. They look stronger than ever, more consistent than ever. I was really particularly impressed by game 2, where B&B played very defensive. They were like trying to bait out any kind of a mistake from Hydronation. Hydronation just gave them nothing, and they showed that you want to play defensive. We are going to eat the map. We're going to crush you with economy, and we're not going to take any risks. If you guys are going to play passive and just sit behind, we're just going to get further ahead. And I think historically, Hydronation has always been amazing in the dueling, in the team fighting, mechanical aspects of the game. But now to see them have this strong of an economy game as well, this reminds me of a team like Virtus Pro, where they can win not only through aim skill and mechanics, but also through economy, through the MOBA mechanics of Deadlock, which is, I think, super important for the development, for the overall potential of this team. And then got a player like Lefa able to leverage that to the fullest degree.
Well, Dan, as you take a look at this here, it was pretty unbelievable, but, we have a special event here, right? This is a special event. It was a special BO5. And you know what that means? We're not bound by the rules. We make the rules here. And that's why we have a second player of the match presented by Intel. That's right. It is he who rocks the double fist. Hydration on the Mo. Because really, Dan, it was the deadly duo of Hydration and Lefa that truly made it happen.
Yeah, some of the dives, I think especially that one where we saw Hydration like take the aggro for Lefa was like pretty insane. But yeah, just a really, really good cognizance and good chemistry. And from what I understand, Lefa's not necessarily the most vocal player. I don't know about Hydration, if it's any different to his interviews. Maybe these guys just have a mind meld or something, because we did see like really great coordination between them. They read the game really well. And the Mo is so strong right now, and having Hydration be able to like consistently create space and create setups for a player like Lefa it's just too strong. It's too good.
I think it's so exciting seeing these guys in a duo lane where, we always used to talk about Lefa and Hydration being the dynamic duo for Hydronation when they were on the roster together. But that was always in the context of the late game, of like reaching the point where, okay, they're finally starting to group up as the 2 main carries. But seeing the 2 of them in lane is just like a joy from minute 1. And it's allowing them, I think, to hit a higher peak where they're not relying on, hitting a high farm peak and being in like the mid to late game where they started to grow up. They're grouped up from minute 1, and they're really showing that dynamic duo prowess. So I think the fans are really going to love to watch over the next few weeks in DFN. I can't imagine, surely not Hydronation making any changes after the performance they put on today.
Please no, do not. But to give us some insight into that, we got an interview ready, and we had to go to just one person for an interview on Hydronation. The rival of Ido when it comes to interviews. We got the man himself, young Calc, with us for the interview. Calc, first off, congratulations on your victory. And second off, what changed with Hydronation aside from your roster like 8 million times to make today such a success?
Well, I'm glad you asked, and I know you said aside from the roster, but this is a message directly from the king himself, the leader himself. He wanted me to say this. He said, to answer your question, what changed? He said, it's finally easy to improve and win with the problems gone on the team. And by that, I don't mean DMB, I mean Vegas and Quig. That's what Hydra wanted me to say.
Wow.
Oh, holy. Okay.
Did Hydration really say that?
Yes, he really said that. He really said that. No, he really said that.
If Hydration would say that on interviews, we would get him on for an interview. He has to like filter it through like the calc filter. But look, I'm happy for it. Floor is open. Dan, what do you got for Mr. Calc?
I just like that Hydration speaks through people as opposed to like doing it himself. I love the imagery of that. It's like anyway.
Sends a messenger.
So we see like the meta change a lot, going to 3 lanes and all of that. But it feels like Abrams has had like a really big resurgence in terms of how people have been valuing him in every region. You must feel good about that, Cal, given that you're probably the best Abrams in the region. So what's your feeling on like how the meta's been changing and just seeing like more Abrams, more Mo?
Abrams isn't even that good. There's a reason why other teams don't pick it, is because when they pick it, they don't get any value out of it. The only 2 good Abrams players in NA is me and Flick, I think, so we're the only people who can really play it.
The gauntlet has been thrown down, and I got to give you one more opportunity to throw one more gauntlet down. I'm curious right now, Hydronation, you guys look to be in peak form, maybe as good as the team has ever looked with this 3-0 blowout. But let's look across the pond, looking at Virtus Pro, looking at their run of dominance in EU. Right now, if you went to a LAN, who's winning? NA, EU? Who's got it right now?
I mean, it's hard to say, but you got to have confidence in yourself. I think that we're really happy with the form we're in, and we're really confident with how we're playing. So I think it'd be a good match. I don't think it'd be a stomp either way. I mean, VP's obviously a really good team, though. They have really good players on it. So it's hard to say, but obviously we got some confidence. I think we would have a shot at least. It'd be close. It'd be probably the most entertaining match you could put together.
Well, Calc, obviously, like, Hydronation had a rough few weeks rebuilding, but you've come out stronger than ever. Any words you want to say to the fans, viewers, whatever you want to get out here on broadcast before we let you go, the floor is yours.
Well, since Flick is on a role that's like kind of overshadowed by other roles, I think it's important to give him a shout out. Like I saw the 2 players in the matches was like Left and Hydration. Those are fantastic. They're both insane and they play super well. But don't let the public forget about Flick. Flick is honestly doing so much all the time. He has like max damage on a lot of different characters. He's such a good player, so don't overlook what him or the other people like Rocker and Rokane are doing on the team as well. So like Flick's probably the best player in my opinion in NA. So and nobody even talks about it. So
top damage on Paradox game 3 is kind of insane. I was like, how you do top damage on that character, especially in that game with everyone else being so farmed. So yeah, yep. exactly.
I just saw that too. What? Like, what? We didn't talk about that yet. That's great.
Yeah, it's like, by the way, secretly, Flick did a lot of damage. But Calc, thank you so much. Congratulations on your win once more. Hydronation, once more, the kings of North America. Everyone here, you saw it. Calc testified to it. And also put a lot of gasoline on the fire in turn. But look, this is stuff people love to hear.
Look, he's just the messenger, all right? You got to blame Hydration.
That's true. That's right. That's right. It wasn't Calc who actually did it. Calc, he just...
The king has sent word from on high. He's hung the bodies from the bridge, He's got the heads on the pikes with the championship crown in tow.
It's a classic, Dan. It's a classic that goes, I mean, we've seen it in many esports across time, and now we got it here in Deadlock.
I love it. I think it's so good. It's funny too because people try to farm these types of responses from players, like to try to get something spicy or controversial. But it's definitely just awesome when players just like give it to you, and they're just like, actually, this guy's a piece of shit. Like, oh my god! Like, whoa, okay, all right. But yeah, we'll see though. It might just be jokes, but we'll see. We'll see in like 6 months. We'll see like how the storyline develops in the region over time. Because some regions, like I know in the French Counter-Strike region, for example, like there's so many like potential conflicts of people playing with each other because there's been so much drama over so many rosters for so long that you get into like a really weird place eventually. But yeah, it's fun.
All right, so it does bring us to the end of our show here today. Final words, Jake. We'll start with you.
Just congrats to the winners, man. VP and Hydronation back on top of their respective regions. It's great to see, really solid performances here in Deadlock Fight Night. The roster's coming together, especially for Hydronation being, after coming off all these changes. It's been fun to watch Leffa back in the server.
Here. Yeah, it's great to see Leffa back. This edition of the roster is really exciting. The downside is that they might just stomp everybody, but it's very exciting to. I'm not one of those people that feels like when a team's really dominant that's boring. I like that because I like to see the highest level of the game, regardless as to how you see that. And it's also something that everyone else has to. They have to improve their level to get to that, which is ultimately in the best interest of everyone. So I'm really happy to see them back.
It's really easy to know whose builds I should copy. The team that stomped everybody 3-0 is probably a good place to start.
Not only stomp people, but also redefine the tier list, where, by the way, you can catch all the VODs and our new extra content we've been putting out on the Deadlock Fight Night YouTube channel. If you haven't looked at it, go over there, subscribe, hit the bell, like all the stuff that every other YouTube video says, but we mean it authentically here because we want to serve you the best stuff ever. Please go check it out. But that does bring us to the end of the broadcast tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to the players and teams. And of course, thank you to Intel, our sponsor, for helping enable all this, making this happen, and making some of the best computer hardware in the world. But everyone, this has been Deadlock Fight Night, presented by Intel, and we'll see you next time.